Melanie never thought her life would become a pawn in someone else's game. When Oliver Taylor, a ruthless businessman, chose her as the centerpiece of a cruel bet, he had no idea he was triggering a series of events that would change both of them in irreversible ways. A woman haunted by insecurities, a man addicted to power and control, and a dirty secret waiting to explode at any moment. In the heart of Boston, where smiles hide dark intentions, Melanie is about to learn that true power doesn't lie with those who control the game, but with those who dare to play it to the end. As the truth looms like an inevitable storm, one question remains: who will emerge unscathed when the masks finally fall? There's no turning back, and the outcome will be devastating. Melanie Stewart looked at her reflection in the mirror with a mix of resignation and quiet acceptance. Her soft, round face, framed by dark, loose curls, stared back at her. She was 32, overweight, and had long struggled with her self-image. The world constantly reminded her that she wasn't enough, not beautiful enough, not thin enough, not worthy enough. Despite her insecurities, Melanie had built a life she was proud of. She worked as a librarian in Boston, and while her days were quiet and predictable, they were safe. She had friends, a close-knit group of supportive women who had always been her anchor. But there was something missing, a void that no amount of self-love seminars or motivational podcasts could fill. The deep yearning for love. Melanie sighed and turned away from the mirror, pushing thoughts of romance to the back of her mind. She had accepted long ago that love, at least the kind she dreamed about, wasn't for her, not in a world where looks mattered more than anything else. But that didn't mean she was immune to the loneliness that crept in at night when she was alone with her thoughts. Little did Melanie know, her life was about to collide with Oliver Taylor's in the most unexpected and cruel way. On the other side of town, Oliver Taylor, the face of a national fitness empire, stood in front of a roaring fireplace in his penthouse apartment. Tall, muscular, and impossibly good-looking, Oliver was the epitome of success. At 35, he had it all: wealth, status, and an endless stream of beautiful women vying for his attention. But tonight, he wasn't thinking about his next business venture or his latest date. He was locked in a heated conversation with his longtime friend, Michael Stone. "Come on, Oliver," Michael goaded, leaning back in the leather chair, a smirk playing on his lips. "You've always had it easy. Women flock to you because you look like a god. But what if you had to chase someone who didn't fit the mold? Someone different?" Oliver raised an eyebrow, taking a slow sip of his whiskey. "Different? What exactly are you suggesting?" Michael's grin widened as he leaned forward. "I'm saying, what if you had to date someone you'd never look at twice? Someone completely outside your type? You know, like a woman who doesn't fit your perfect, gym-sculpted ideal." Oliver scoffed. "Why would I do that? What's the point?" Michael's eyes gleamed with mischief. "Because it would be a challenge. And let's face it, you love challenges. Besides," he added, his voice lowering conspiratorially, "I bet you wouldn't last 6 months, not with a woman who's overweight." Oliver's expression darkened slightly, and he turned away, walking towards the window that overlooked the glittering Boston skyline. His voice was calm, but the competitive edge in his tone was unmistakable. "You think I can't do it?" Michael chuckled. "I know you can't. You're too shallow. You wouldn't make it past the first date." Oliver's jaw tightened. He hated being told he couldn't do something. His entire career had been built on defying expectations, on being the best at everything he touched. He turned back to face Michael, his blue eyes cold and determined. "What's the bet?" Michael stood up, now fully engaged. 6 months. You have to date. No, you have to marry. A woman who's nothing like your usual type. Specifically, a woman with real curves. You can't let her in on the bet, and you can't bail before the 6 months are up. If you do, you lose. "And what do I get if I win?" Michael leaned back again, the smirk returning. "I'll give you that prime property in Malibu that you've been eyeing for months. No strings attached." Oliver's interest peaked. That property was worth millions, and owning a piece of Malibu beachfront would solidify his place among the elite. He nodded slowly, the wheels turning in his head. "And if I lose?" Michael's grin was all teeth. "You donate half of your company's annual profits to charity, all of it, and you can't take it back once it's done." For a moment, Oliver hesitated. He loved his company, and giving away half of its profits was no small loss. But the thought of backing down from a challenge, especially one as simple as dating someone outside his usual type, was inconceivable. He prided himself on his ability to control any situation, to manipulate circumstances to his advantage. How hard could it be to string along a woman for 6 months? He extended his hand to Michael. "You're on." 2 days later, Michael sat in a quaint coffee shop near the Boston Public Library. He scrolled through his phone until a familiar name appeared on his screen. Melanie Stewart. She was perfect for the bet. A librarian, quiet, unassuming, overweight, but not unattractive. She was exactly the kind of woman Oliver would never look at twice under normal circumstances. Michael knew her through an old college friend and had kept tabs on her social media for a while. She lived a simple life, filled with posts about books, cats, and the occasional girls' night out. Harmless, easy to manipulate. He smiled to himself as he typed out a text to Oliver. "Found her. You're going to love this." Back at his office, Oliver received the message and glanced at the profile picture that Michael had sent along with it. Melanie's face, round and framed by soft curls, stared back at him, smiling shyly in front of a row of bookshelves. She wasn't what he would normally go for, but there was something innocent about her. Easy prey. He texted Michael back. Set it up. Melanie had no idea what was coming. She was going about her usual routine, finishing up at the library and preparing to meet her friends for their weekly trivia night. She always enjoyed these nights, even if she wasn't particularly good at trivia. It was the camaraderie that made it special. As she locked up the library for the evening, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Curious, she opened it. "Hey Melanie, this is Oliver. I'm a friend of Michael's. He mentioned you're a fan of trivia nights, and I was wondering if you'd like to meet up sometime, maybe grab a coffee." Melanie stared at the message, her heart racing. Oliver. She didn't know any Oliver, but if he was a friend of Michael's, maybe he was someone from college. The name sounded familiar, but she couldn't quite place it. Still, the idea of someone wanting to meet her, a man wanting to meet her, was enough to make her stomach flutter with nervous excitement. She typed back, her fingers trembling slightly. "Sure, I'd love to." Little did she know, this message would mark the beginning of the most transformative 6 months of her life. The next few days passed in a haze of anticipation for Melanie. After exchanging a few more messages with Oliver, they had finally set a date for coffee that weekend. It felt surreal. Melanie couldn't believe that someone like Oliver, a man who seemed so confident and well-established, would be interested in her. She had tried to keep her excitement in check, telling herself not to expect too much, but deep down, she couldn't help but feel flattered. As Saturday morning arrived, Melanie stood in front of her closet, nervously scanning her limited wardrobe. She pulled out a few outfits, holding them up to the mirror. Nothing seemed right. She settled on a simple navy dress that was comfortable but flattering enough to make her feel somewhat confident. It was modest, with a cinched waist that gave her some shape, but she still felt a nagging insecurity about her appearance. She brushed her hair out carefully and applied a bit of makeup, just enough to enhance her natural features without trying too hard. Her phone buzzed, making her jump. It was Oliver, sending her the name of the coffee shop where they were meeting. He had chosen a small, trendy place near downtown Boston, not far from her usual haunts. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach as she slipped on her shoes and headed out. Meanwhile, Oliver prepared for the date with an air of detached confidence. For him, this wasn't a date in the traditional sense. It was a game, one that he was determined to win. Melanie was just the first step in his plan to win the bet, to prove to Michael and to himself that he could do it. He looked at himself in the mirror, adjusting his jacket. His appearance was always immaculate, the result of years spent honing his physique and mastering his image. As he headed out the door, he felt no guilt about the ruse he was about to engage in. Melanie was just another piece on the board. He arrived at the coffee shop a few minutes early and found a table near the window where he could watch people passing by. His phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Good luck today. Let me know how it goes. Remember, 6 months is a long time." Oliver rolled his eyes and put the phone away, sipping his coffee as he waited for Melanie. Melanie arrived outside the coffee shop, her heart pounding. She spotted Oliver immediately. He was impossible to miss. He looked just like his photos, only more striking in person. His confident posture and sharp features stood out even among the bustling crowd. For a moment, she hesitated, feeling the familiar wave of self-doubt. Why would someone like him want to meet me? She almost considered turning around and leaving, but then Oliver glanced up, caught her eye, and smiled. With that simple gesture, Melanie felt a bit of her anxiety melt away. She walked over, feeling like her legs might give out at any moment. "Melanie!" Oliver stood up as she approached, his smile still in place, though a practiced one. He extended a hand, and Melanie shook it, her hands slightly trembling. "Hi, yes, that's me," she managed to say, her voice a little breathless. "It's nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too," Oliver replied smoothly, gesturing to the seat across from him. "I hope you didn't have any trouble finding the place." "No, not at all," she said as she sat down, trying to steady her nerves. "I actually come around here sometimes, so I knew the area." They exchanged some small talk for a few minutes, Oliver asking about her job at the library and making polite inquiries about her interests. Melanie found herself relaxing a little as the conversation flowed, though she couldn't shake the feeling that something about this situation was surreal. Oliver seemed interested, but his manner was so smooth, almost too perfect. "He's just being polite," she thought to herself, trying not to read too much into it. As they talked, Oliver's internal dialogue was far different. He was used to dates that felt like a performance, and this was no exception. But Melanie was different from the women he usually entertained. She was nervous, sweet, and sincere, qualities that, under different circumstances, he might have found endearing. But today, he was focused solely on his objective: charm her, gain her trust, and secure the relationship for the sake of the bet. "So, what made you agree to meet up?" Melanie asked after a while, trying to suppress her curiosity. She didn't want to seem desperate, but she was genuinely puzzled by his interest. Oliver leaned back in his chair, giving her a thoughtful look. "I think it's refreshing to meet someone who's real," he said smoothly, his voice softening. "You're not like the people I usually meet in my circles. You're genuine, and that's rare." Melanie felt her face flush. She didn't know whether to feel flattered or suspicious, but his words felt sincere enough. Maybe he really did see something in her that was different from the women he normally met. "Thank you," she said softly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "That's really nice of you to say." Oliver smiled again, inwardly congratulating himself on how easily the conversation was going. He had her hooked. He could tell by the way her eyes softened when he spoke, the way her guard was slowly dropping. This would be easier than he thought. They spent the next hour talking, the conversation flowing effortlessly. Melanie found herself laughing at his jokes, even as her insecurities nagged at her. There was still a part of her that couldn't believe this was happening, that someone like Oliver could actually be interested in her. But for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to enjoy the moment. She let herself believe, just for a little while, that this could be real. As they finished their coffee, Oliver glanced at his watch, pretending to be slightly disappointed. "I hate to cut this short, but I have a meeting in about an hour. I'd love to see you again, though. How about dinner next week?" Melanie blinked in surprise, her heart skipping a beat. "Dinner? I'd really like that." Oliver smiled, the perfect picture of a charming gentleman. "Great. I'll text you the details. I'm looking forward to it." They stood up, and Oliver walked her to the door, placing a light hand on the small of her back. Melanie felt a rush of warmth at the contact, and as they parted ways, she couldn't help but feel a giddy excitement bubbling inside her. This was happening. A man like Oliver Taylor wanted to see her again. She had to stop herself from grinning as she walked down the street, her mind already racing with thoughts about what to wear for their next date. Back in his car, Oliver's demeanor shifted the moment he was alone. The warmth and charm he'd displayed evaporated, replaced by a cool indifference. He pulled out his phone and texted Michael, "First date down. She's in. This is going to be easier than I thought." Michael's reply came almost instantly. "Told you. Just wait until you have to keep it up for 6 months. This is just the beginning." Oliver tossed his phone onto the passenger seat, already moving on to his next task of the day. For him, the date was just a minor distraction. Melanie was a means to an end, nothing more. But in the back of his mind, a small voice reminded him that there was still a long road ahead, and keeping up the charade might not be as simple as he thought. Melanie, however, had no idea what lay ahead. As she made her way back home, her heart was light, her mind spinning with thoughts of Oliver. She hadn't felt this way in years, nervous, excited, hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real. But little did she know, she was walking straight into a carefully crafted trap. The days that followed their coffee date were filled with anticipation for Melanie. Each time her phone buzzed with a new message from Oliver, she felt a mix of excitement and disbelief. His texts were warm and engaging, filled with just the right balance of interest and humor, making her feel seen in a way she hadn't experienced in years. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, she had finally found someone who saw beyond her outward appearance. Their next date was set for Friday evening, and Melanie spent the entire week going back and forth over what to wear, what to say, and how to keep her nerves in check. She had told her close friend Sarah about Oliver, and while Sarah was supportive, there had been a flicker of concern in her eyes when Melanie had described him. "So, let me get this straight," Sarah had said during one of their usual phone calls. "This guy, who's ridiculously handsome and successful, just appeared out of nowhere, and he's genuinely interested in you." Melanie had winced at the way Sarah's words came out, even though she knew her friend didn't mean it to hurt her. "I mean, yeah, he's a friend of Michael's, remember him from college, and I don't know. He seems really nice." "Melanie, I'm just saying, be careful. Guys like that, they usually don't go after women like us unless there's something more. I don't want you to get hurt." Melanie had brushed off the comment at the time, insisting that she wasn't going to let herself get carried away. But as Friday drew closer, Sarah's words lingered in her mind. "Why is he interested in me?" she kept wondering, that tiny voice of doubt gnawing at the back of her thoughts. But when Friday night finally arrived, and Melanie found herself seated across from Oliver at a chic downtown restaurant, all her fears seemed to melt away. Oliver was charming, attentive, and effortlessly charismatic. He seemed genuinely interested in everything she had to say, asking about her work, her passions, and her childhood with an ease that made her feel comfortable. At one point during the evening, after they had finished their main course, Melanie worked up the courage to address her lingering insecurity. "I have to admit," she said, her voice tentative, "I'm a little surprised that you're interested in me. I mean, we come from such different worlds." Oliver leaned back in his chair, regarding her with a thoughtful expression. He knew this moment was crucial. He couldn't afford to be careless in his response. "I get that," he said after a pause, his voice softening, "but I'm not the kind of guy who judges people based on appearances or superficial things." He offered her a warm smile. "I like who you are, Melanie. You're genuine. That's rare these days." His words hit Melanie like a wave of validation. She felt her cheeks flush, warmth spreading through her chest. Maybe this really is real, she thought. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to lower the walls she had built around her heart. As the weeks passed, Oliver and Melanie's relationship appeared to blossom. They went on more dates, walks along the Charles River, evenings at cozy cafes, and even a few casual outings to the movies. Oliver played the role of the perfect boyfriend, always attentive, always saying the right things at the right moments. To Melanie, it felt like a dream. She had never been in a relationship like this before, where everything seemed to fall into place so effortlessly. And yet, there was still a part of her that couldn't shake the feeling that this was too good to be true. Oliver, on the other hand, was finding the whole process both easier and more challenging than he had anticipated. Melanie was sweet, innocent, and completely unaware of the game he was playing. She was trusting, almost to a fault, and it made manipulating her emotions simple. Yet there was something about the way she looked at him with such genuine affection that occasionally gave him pause. He pushed those thoughts aside. This was a bet, nothing more. He had no reason to feel guilty. One evening, after a particularly enjoyable dinner date, Oliver walked Melanie to her apartment building. The air was crisp with the early signs of fall, and they lingered at her doorstep, neither one wanting to break the moment. Melanie felt her heart racing, a familiar nervousness creeping in. She hadn't dated much, and the thought of being vulnerable, especially with someone like Oliver, still made her feel self-conscious. "I had a really great time tonight," she said, her voice soft. "Me too," Oliver replied, his tone smooth and sincere. He stepped a little closer, closing the space between them. "I always do when I'm with you." Melanie's breath caught as he leaned in, gently brushing his lips against hers. The kiss was soft, tentative, but it sent a jolt of electricity through her. She had been waiting for this moment, imagining what it would feel like. And now, here it was, real, tangible, and overwhelming. When they finally pulled away, Oliver smiled, his hand still resting lightly on her arm. "Good night, Melanie. Good night," she whispered, watching as he walked away into the night. She stood there for a moment longer, her heart still fluttering. When she finally made her way up to her apartment, she couldn't stop smiling. This was it. She was falling for him. But behind Oliver's charm and perfect timing, the reality of the situation was far more calculated. As he drove home that night, his mind was already working through the next phase of the plan. He knew Melanie was growing attached. The vulnerability in her eyes when they kissed was undeniable. "She's falling for me," he thought, with a mixture of satisfaction and guilt. He hated that the bet was starting to feel more complicated than it should have. A part of him, a very small part, almost felt bad for her. She was so trusting, so unguarded, but he quickly reminded himself why he was doing this. He couldn't afford to get emotionally involved. He had an empire to protect, and the reward for winning this bet was too great to risk. The next day, Oliver met up with Michael for a round of golf at the country club. Michael, as always, was eager for an update. "So," Michael grinned as he lined up his shot on the green. "How's it going with your project?" Oliver chuckled, leaning on his club. "Better than expected." "She's all in." Michael straightened up, eyeing Oliver with curiosity. "You sound almost guilty about it." "I'm not guilty," Oliver replied quickly, though the tone of his voice wasn't as certain as he intended. "It's just, she's not what I expected. She's different from the women I usually date." "Different how?" Michael asked, genuinely interested. "She's kind, genuine." Oliver paused, realizing how that sounded. "I mean, it's nothing, just different." Michael raised an eyebrow, sensing a hint of hesitation. "You're not going soft, are you? Because let me remind you, this is a bet, 6 months, no strings attached. Then you get the property in Malibu. But if you're starting to catch feelings—" "I'm not," Oliver interrupted, his tone sharper than he intended. He took a deep breath, regaining his composure. "Trust me, I know exactly what I'm doing." Michael shrugged, clearly unconvinced but willing to let it slide. "All right, just don't mess this up. I'm counting on you to follow through. It's a lot of money we're talking about." "I know," Oliver said through gritted teeth, feeling the weight of the bet press down on him more than ever. As the relationship deepened, Melanie found herself falling harder for Oliver with each passing day. She had never experienced this kind of connection before. Someone who seemed to understand her, who made her feel valued despite all of her insecurities. She started spending more time with him, opening up about her hopes and dreams in a way she had never done with anyone else. And Oliver played the part perfectly, always listening, always saying the right things. But beneath the surface, he was counting the days, knowing that the deeper they went, the harder it would be for Melanie when the truth finally came out. As the weeks turned into months, Melanie's relationship with Oliver blossomed into something she had only dreamed about. She spent more time with him, and each day seemed to bring new moments of joy, warmth and laughter. Oliver had become a fixture in her life, and Melanie couldn't help but feel like she was living a fairy tale. But in the back of her mind, the insecurities that had plagued her for so long still whispered their doubts. Could this really be happening to me? She wondered. One evening, as they sat together on her small living room couch, sipping wine and talking about their day, Melanie finally let herself voice the question that had been gnawing at her. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice hesitant, "about how different our worlds are." Oliver turned to look at her, raising an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" she sighed, swirling her wineglass nervously. "You're this successful, confident guy, always surrounded by people. And me, I'm just, well, ordinary. I work at a library. I have a simple life. Sometimes I wonder what you see in me." Oliver placed his glass down on the coffee table and reached for her hand, his touch sending a familiar warmth through her. "Melanie," he said softly, "you're not ordinary. You're one of the most genuine, kind-hearted people I've ever met. I'm drawn to that. Don't ever think you're not enough." His words wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, soothing her insecurities. Maybe it's time to stop doubting him, she thought. She was falling deeper for him every day, and with every kind word, every gentle touch, the walls she had built around her heart crumbled a little more. But what Melanie didn't know was that, for Oliver, this was all part of the plan. His carefully constructed words, his practiced smiles, it was all meant to keep her close, to keep her from suspecting the truth. Yet, as the days passed, something unexpected began to stir in him. One Saturday afternoon, Oliver and Melanie decided to take a trip to a local farmer's market. It was a crisp and sunny day, and the stalls were bustling with people browsing fresh produce, handmade crafts, and artisan goods. Melanie loved the market. The vibrant colors, the chatter of friendly vendors, and the smell of freshly baked bread always made her feel alive. As they strolled through the market, hand in hand, she couldn't help but smile. "This place is amazing," Oliver remarked, his tone light as they passed a stand selling freshly picked apples. "I've never been to a farmer's market before." "Never?" Melanie asked, incredulous. Oliver shook his head. "Nope, I usually just get my groceries delivered. This is a whole new experience for me." Melanie laughed, squeezing his hand. "Well, you're missing out. There's something special about meeting the people who grow your food. It feels personal." She led him from stall to stall, explaining the different local vendors, showing him her favorite spots. Oliver watched her as she talked, noting the way her face lit up when she was passionate about something. It was moments like these, when she was completely unaware of herself, that he found himself genuinely enjoying her company. "She's so different," he thought, "so unlike the women he usually dated." There was no pretense with her, no need for fancy restaurants or high-end experiences. She was content with the simple things, and for the first time in a long while, Oliver found himself enjoying those simple things too. As they reached a stand selling homemade jams, Melanie picked up a jar and handed it to him. "You have to try this," she said. "It's the best strawberry jam you'll ever taste." Oliver smiled, taking the jar from her. "All right, I trust you." They bought the jam, along with a few other goodies, and spent the rest of the afternoon wandering the market. By the time they left, the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm golden glow over the city. They stopped by the river, sitting on a bench to watch the sunset, the market bags at their feet. For a moment, there was a comfortable silence between them. The only sound, the gentle flow of the river and the distant hum of the city. Oliver glanced at Melanie, who was staring out at the horizon, a peaceful smile on her face. Something stirred in his chest, an unfamiliar, unsettling feeling. It wasn't guilt exactly, but it was close. He was playing her. He knew that. But there were times, like now, when he almost forgot why he was doing it. This is just a bet, he reminded himself. Don't get caught up in it. But as he looked at her, her warmth, her kindness, the way she made him feel, he couldn't help but wonder if he was starting to lose control. Melanie, on the other hand, was completely oblivious to the internal struggle Oliver was facing. For her, this relationship felt like everything she had ever hoped for. Over the weeks, her feelings for him had deepened, and the idea that this could be something lasting was beginning to take root in her heart. She had even begun to imagine a future with him, one where they could build a life together, where she wouldn't have to feel insecure or unworthy anymore. But despite how good things seemed on the surface, there was a part of Melanie that still harbored doubts. After all, she had spent years guarding her heart, and old habits were hard to break. Sarah had noticed this too, and during one of their weekly meetups, she brought it up. "Melanie, I'm happy that you're happy," Sarah said as they sat in their favorite cafe sipping lattes. "But are you sure everything's okay? I mean, you've only known Oliver for a few months, and it's all moving so fast." Melanie bit her lip, staring down at her coffee. "I know, but it feels right, Sarah. He makes me feel special, like I matter." "I get that," Sarah said gently. "But just be careful, okay? You're my best friend, and I don't want to see you get hurt." Melanie nodded, appreciating her friend's concern, but she couldn't bring herself to admit her own fears. She didn't want to give voice to the doubts swirling in her mind. She wanted to believe that Oliver was different, that he was the one. After all, how could something that felt so good be anything but real? Meanwhile, the pressure was beginning to mount on Oliver. With each passing week, Michael would check in, reminding him of the stakes of the bet. But Oliver was starting to dread those conversations. His usual bravado was slipping, and the more time he spent with Melanie, the more he found himself questioning the whole thing. One night, after a particularly heated conversation with Michael, Oliver sat alone in his apartment, staring at his phone. He had texted Melanie earlier, but he hadn't heard back. Normally, he wouldn't think much of it, but tonight, something felt different. He felt uneasy, and it wasn't just the guilt gnawing at him. It was something deeper. He picked up his phone and dialed her number. She answered after the second ring. "Hey," she said, her voice warm and familiar. "What's up?" "I just wanted to check in," Oliver said, trying to keep his tone light. "I didn't hear from you, and I don't know. I guess I was worried." Melanie chuckled softly. "Worried? About me?" "Yeah," Oliver admitted, surprising even himself. "I guess I was." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and when Melanie spoke again, her voice was soft. "I'm fine, Oliver. I was just out with Sarah. But it's nice to know you care." "I do care," he said, and for the first time since the bet began, the words didn't feel like a lie. As the weeks continued, the line between truth and deception began to blur for Oliver. The more time he spent with Melanie, the more conflicted he became. He knew he was supposed to be in control, to keep his emotions out of it. But as their connection deepened, he found himself questioning what he really wanted. For Melanie, these months were a whirlwind of emotions. She had never felt so close to someone, never let herself be this vulnerable. Oliver had become a central part of her life, and the idea of losing him was something she couldn't bear to think about. But little did she know, the foundation of their relationship was built on a lie that would eventually come crashing down, shattering everything she had come to believe. Months had passed, and Melanie had never felt happier. Her relationship with Oliver had grown in ways she never imagined. They had settled into a comfortable routine, weekend getaways, spontaneous dinners, and quiet nights in her apartment, just the two of them. Melanie had even started to introduce Oliver to her friends, though she kept the relationship somewhat private. afraid that exposing it to the world might somehow disrupt the fragile magic they shared. But while Melanie's heart brimmed with love and hope, Oliver was battling an internal war that grew fiercer by the day. The closer they got to the 6-month mark of the bet, the more conflicted he became. He had come to care for Melanie in ways he hadn't anticipated. She was no longer just a pawn in a game. She had become someone important to him. And yet, the looming specter of the bet remained, a constant reminder of the lies their relationship had been built on. The end of the bet was approaching fast, and Michael had started pressing him for updates. "You've got a month left," Michael reminded him one evening as they sat in a bar downtown. "Then it's all over, and the Malibu property is yours. Just a few more weeks of playing the doting boyfriend, and you'll walk away a richer man." Oliver took a long sip of his drink, his jaw clenched. He didn't respond right away, his thoughts elsewhere. "Come on, Oliver," Michael pushed, sensing his friend's reluctance. "Don't tell me you're catching feelings. That wasn't part of the deal." Oliver shot him a glare. "I'm not catching feelings." "Then what's the problem? You've got her wrapped around your finger. You've already won." Oliver leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "It's not that simple anymore." Michael raised an eyebrow, a knowing smirk forming on his lips. "You're in deeper than you planned, huh? Man, I warned you about this. Women like her. They're easy to fall for because they're real. But you knew the rules from the start." Oliver stared at his drink, the ice clinking softly as he swirled it around. He hated how right Michael was, but admitting that out loud was something he couldn't bring himself to do. Instead, he pushed the feeling down, burying it under layers of justification. "Look," Michael continued, his tone turning serious, "the way I see it, you've got two options. You either end it clean when the time's up, or you follow through and propose, seal the deal, keep her around for the bet, and then let it fade out after the 6 months. You win either way." Oliver frowned. "Propose?" Michael nodded. "Why not? She's already in love with you, right? What better way to lock it down than with a ring? It'll make her feel secure, and you can keep playing the perfect fiancé until the time comes to let go." The idea of proposing to Melanie had never crossed Oliver's mind, not seriously anyway. But as Michael laid out the plan, Oliver began to consider it. It was a clean way to ensure he won the bet without having to deal with the emotional fallout too soon. If he proposed, Melanie would never suspect a thing. But as the thought settled in his mind, a wave of guilt washed over him. Could he really do that to her? Could he look her in the eyes, put a ring on her finger, and continue to lie to her? A week later, Melanie found herself standing in front of her bathroom mirror, trying to steady her breath. She had invited Oliver over for a quiet dinner that night, but something felt different. Oliver had been distant lately, more preoccupied than usual, and Melanie couldn't help but worry. Her insecurities, which had been lying dormant for months, began to resurface. What if something's wrong? What if he's losing interest? Her mind raced with possibilities, but she pushed them aside as the doorbell rang. She quickly smoothed down her dress and made her way to the door, trying to appear calm and composed. When she opened the door, Oliver stood there, a bouquet of white roses in hand. Melanie smiled, relieved by the sight of him, though the tension in his eyes didn't go unnoticed. "These are for you," Oliver said, handing her the flowers with a soft smile. "They're beautiful, thank you," Melanie replied, feeling the butterflies in her stomach. She stepped aside to let him in, watching as he walked into the living room. Dinner was simple: roasted chicken, vegetables, and a bottle of wine. They ate quietly, exchanging small talk, but Melanie could feel the unspoken weight in the air. Something was on Oliver's mind, and she had a sinking feeling it wasn't good. After dinner, they moved to the couch, and Oliver seemed restless, fidgeting with his hands as they sat together. Melanie, unable to bear the silence any longer, finally spoke up. "Is everything okay, Oliver? You've been distant lately." Oliver looked at her, his blue eyes searching hers. He could see the worry in her face, the vulnerability she tried to hide. It made what he was about to do even harder. He had rehearsed this moment in his head a dozen times, trying to find a way to justify it to himself. I've been thinking a lot, Oliver began slowly, his voice low. About us, about the future. Melanie's heart skipped a beat. The future? Was he about to break up with her? The thought sent a chill down her spine. I know things have been moving fast between us, Oliver continued, choosing his words carefully. But I've never felt this way about anyone before. Melanie's breath caught in her throat as she listened, her heart pounding in her chest. I've never met anyone like you, Melanie, Oliver said, his voice softening. You've changed my life in ways I never expected, and I don't want to lose you. He paused, his heart racing as he reached into his pocket. Melanie watched in stunned silence as he pulled out a small velvet box. Her eyes widened, her mind struggling to keep up with what was happening. Melanie, Oliver said, his voice trembling slightly, will you marry me? Time seemed to stand still. Melanie stared at the ring in his hand, her heart racing, her mind reeling. Was this really happening? She had dreamed of this moment for years, but now that it was here, it felt surreal. She blinked, trying to process the emotions flooding through her. Yes, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Then, louder, with tears welling in her eyes, she repeated, yes, Oliver, I'll marry you. Oliver slipped the ring onto her finger, his chest tight with a mixture of relief and guilt. He leaned in to kiss her, but as their lips met, the weight of the lie felt heavier than ever. He had done it. He had secured the bet. But at what cost? The next few days were a whirlwind for Melanie. She could hardly believe that she was engaged. Her friends were over the moon when she told them the news, and she found herself swept up in the excitement of it all. She spent hours staring at the ring on her finger, wondering how she had gotten so lucky. But beneath the surface of her joy, there was still a lingering doubt she couldn't shake. Every now and then, a voice in the back of her mind would whisper, why me? Why would someone like Oliver choose me? She tried to push those thoughts away, reminding herself of all the ways Oliver had shown he cared for her. He had proposed, hadn't he? That had to mean something, but even as she reassured herself, the doubts remained. Oliver, meanwhile, was trying to navigate the complex web he had woven. Proposing had bought him time, but it hadn't eased the growing turmoil inside him. Every time Melanie looked at him with those trusting eyes, every time she talked about their future together, the guilt gnawed at him. He had crossed a line, and he wasn't sure if there was any going back, but the clock was still ticking. The bet was almost over. He just had to hold on a little longer, keep up the charade for a few more weeks, and then it would all be over. At least, that's what he kept telling himself. The weeks after the proposal were filled with a whirlwind of emotions for Melanie. She was engaged to the man of her dreams. It felt surreal, like a fairy tale she never believed would happen to her. Every time she glanced at the ring on her finger, a giddy excitement rushed through her. She was constantly on the phone with Sarah and her other friends, discussing wedding plans, dresses, venues, and all the little details that came with it. Melanie had never been so happy, so sure that this was the beginning of the life she had always dreamed of. But beneath the surface, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. While Melanie was lost in the excitement of wedding plans, Oliver was growing more distant. He still smiled when he was with her, still said all the right things, but there was something off, something Melanie couldn't quite put her finger on. He seemed distracted, preoccupied, like his mind was always somewhere else. And the more time passed, the more Melanie's insecurities began to creep back in. One evening, Melanie and Oliver were having dinner at her apartment. The air between them felt thick with unspoken tension, though Melanie couldn't tell why. She watched as Oliver picked at his food, barely eating, his gaze distant. "Is everything okay?" Melanie asked, trying to sound casual, though her voice betrayed a hint of concern. Oliver looked up, startled, as if he had been pulled from a faraway place. "Yeah, everything's fine. Why do you ask?" "You've just been different lately," Melanie said, her voice soft but steady, distant. "I feel like something's bothering you." Oliver sighed, running a hand through his hair. He knew this moment was coming. but he hadn't figured out what to say. He was walking a tightrope, and with the bet almost over, the pressure was mounting. Every day, it became harder to maintain the facade. "It's just work," he said, giving her a strained smile. "Things have been hectic lately, and I've got a lot on my plate. I'm sorry if I've been distant." "It's not about us." Melanie nodded, though her heart still felt heavy. She wanted to believe him, to trust that this was just a temporary phase, but deep down, a small voice whispered doubts. She pushed those thoughts aside, reminding herself that Oliver had proposed. He loved her. That had to count for something, didn't it? Meanwhile, Oliver was barely holding it together. The weight of his deception felt heavier every day, and the closer they got to the end of the bet, the more suffocated he felt. He had gone too far. Proposing had seemed like the right move at the time, a way to secure his win and end the game cleanly. But now, it felt like a noose tightening around his neck. Melanie's excitement about the wedding plans, her joy over their future, only made it worse. He couldn't tell her the truth. It would destroy her and him. He would lose everything. The thought of facing her with the truth made his stomach churn, but continuing the lie felt just as unbearable. Michael, as always, wasn't helping. "You're in the home stretch, man," Michael reminded him over drinks one night. "You're almost there. Just a few more weeks, and it's over." Oliver glared into his drink, the tension in his chest building. "It's not that simple." "What's not simple about it?" Michael asked, his tone dismissive. "You propose, you keep her happy for a few more weeks, and then you let it fizzle out. She'll move on, you'll move on, and we'll both be sitting pretty with that Malibu property in your name." Oliver clenched his jaw, the frustration boiling over. "She's not just going to move on, Michael. She's planning a wedding. She thinks this is forever." Michael raised an eyebrow, sipping his drink casually. "So what? That's her problem, not yours. You knew what you were getting into." Oliver's hands tightened around his glass. The problem was, he hadn't known what he was getting into, not really. He hadn't anticipated how much Melanie would get under his skin, how real this whole thing would start to feel, and now he was trapped. The end of the bet was supposed to bring relief, but all he could feel was dread. "I can't keep doing this," Oliver muttered under his breath. Michael's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, you can't? You're not seriously thinking about backing out now, are you?" Oliver didn't respond, his mind racing. Part of him wanted to tell Michael to go to hell, to walk away from the whole thing and deal with the consequences. But the other part, the part that had built his career on always winning, couldn't let go. He had come too far to lose now. A few days later, Melanie received a call that sent her world spinning. "Melanie?" Sarah's voice was tight, almost hesitant. "I need to talk to you about something I think you need to hear." Melanie frowned, her heart picking up pace. "What is it? You're scaring me." Sarah took a deep breath on the other end of the line. "It's about Oliver. I overheard something today, something I wasn't supposed to hear. Melanie, there's something you need to know." Melanie's stomach dropped, her breath catching in her throat. "What do you mean? What did you hear?" "I was at the cafe," Sarah began, her voice cautious, "and I heard two guys talking. One of them was talking about a bet, some kind of deal where he had to date someone for 6 months. And I swear, Melanie, he said Oliver's name." The words hit Melanie like a punch to the gut. She felt the room spin, her mind racing to make sense of what Sarah was saying. A bet? No, it couldn't be true. Not Oliver. He loved her. He had proposed. This was real. It had to be. "Sarah, are you sure?" Melanie's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. "I'm sure, Melanie. I didn't want to believe it either, but it's true. I'm sorry." Melanie's world crumbled around her. She hung up the phone, her hands shaking. It felt like everything she thought she knew had been a lie. Her mind raced, trying to connect the dots. The distance, the moments when Oliver had seemed off, the way he had proposed out of nowhere, it all made sense now, and the realization was too much to bear. She sat on the edge of her bed, tears streaming down her face. The man she loved, The man she was planning to marry had been lying to her all along, and not just any lie, a cruel, calculated bet. Her heart shattered as the full weight of the betrayal sank in. But instead of confronting him right away, Melanie made a decision. She wasn't going to let him know that she had found out. Not yet. She needed time to think, to figure out her next move. She was hurt, yes, but more than that, she was furious. And in her fury, she began to form a plan. If Oliver thought he could play her, if he thought he could use her and walk away without consequence, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. For the next few days, Melanie played the part of the doting fiancée. She smiled, laughed, and continued to plan their wedding as if nothing had changed. But inside, she was seething. Every time Oliver looked at her, spoke to her, touched her, she had to fight the urge to scream at him, to confront him with the truth. But she wasn't ready for that yet. Not until she knew exactly how she was going to make him pay. She watched him closely, looking for any sign of the guilt he must be feeling. But Oliver was good, too good. He continued the charade as if everything was fine, as if he hadn't destroyed her trust, her heart, her entire world. Melanie knew she couldn't keep this up forever, but for now, she needed to gather her strength. She needed to be smart. Oliver had made a bet, a game out of their love, and now it was her turn to take control of the game. The days following Melanie's devastating discovery were filled with an eerie calm. She went about her usual routines, masking her pain behind a smile that no longer reached her eyes. Her heart ached with every glance at Oliver, but she held herself together, refusing to let her emotions betray her. Inside, however, Melanie was a storm of hurt and anger. The man she loved, the man who had asked her to marry him, had been using her all along. The thought that their relationship, the love she had so deeply cherished, was nothing more than a bet made her stomach churn. But she wasn't going to let Oliver know that she was unraveling inside. Not yet. Melanie was not just heartbroken, she was determined. If Oliver had played a game with her life, then she would turn the tables. She would make sure that when the truth came out, it wouldn't be her standing broken. No, this time, she would control the narrative. She would make sure Oliver felt the sting of betrayal, just as she had. Meanwhile, Oliver continued his facade, unaware that his carefully constructed lie was about to implode. The guilt gnawed at him more each day, but he pushed it aside, convincing himself that once the bet was over, he would find a way to make things right. He didn't know how, but he kept telling himself that once he won the Malibu property, he would figure it all out. Maybe he would stay with Melanie for real. After all, his feelings for her had grown far more than he had anticipated. But that wasn't enough to calm the unease settling in his gut. Every time he saw her, the weight of his deception felt heavier. He knew she loved him. Her eyes gave her away every time they met his, and that only made it harder. He was walking a tightrope, and one wrong move could send everything crashing down. One evening, as Melanie was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at her wedding planning binder, her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Her heart pounded as she opened the message. "Have you told him yet?" Melanie stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She hadn't told anyone the full extent of her plan yet, not even Sarah. She was still piecing it together, trying to figure out the best way to execute her revenge without letting her emotions get in the way. "Not yet. I'm working on it," Melanie replied. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah texted back. "It's risky, Melanie. You could just confront him and be done with it." Melanie sighed, her fingers trembling slightly as she typed her response. "No, not yet. I'm not ready to let him off that easily." She put her phone down, her mind racing. Confronting Oliver right away would be the easy thing to do. She could scream, cry, and demand an explanation, but that wasn't going to fix what he had done to her. It wouldn't erase the months of lies, the humiliation of being used in such a cruel game. No, she needed to do this on her terms, in her own way. The next few days were a test of Melanie's strength. She continued to plan the wedding with Oliver, acting as though nothing had changed, all while her anger simmered beneath the surface. Every time he smiled at her, every time he kissed her, it took everything in her not to pull away. The depth of his betrayal was suffocating, but she refused to let him see it. As they sat together one evening, flipping through a wedding magazine, Oliver noticed Melanie seemed unusually quiet. He glanced at her, concern flickering in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked, placing a hand on her knee. "You've been a little distant the past few days." Melanie forced a smile, her stomach twisting at his touch. "I'm fine," she said, keeping her voice steady. "Just tired. All this wedding planning is starting to get overwhelming." Oliver nodded, his expression softening. "I get that. If it's too much, we can always slow down. We don't have to rush things." The irony of his words made Melanie want to laugh. Rush things. The man who had made a bet to win her over in 6 months was suddenly talking about not rushing. She swallowed the bitterness rising in her throat and shook her head. "No, it's fine," she said. "I just need a little time to unwind." Oliver smiled, leaning in to kiss her on the forehead. "Okay, just let me know if you need a break." Melanie nodded, her mind racing. A break. What she needed was to break his heart the way he had broken hers, but she kept her composure, knowing her moment would come soon enough. The following weekend, Melanie took the first step in setting her plan in motion. She decided to visit Michael, the man she knew was behind the bet. If she was going to take Oliver down, she needed more than just her own knowledge of the bet. She needed the truth from Michael himself. She waited until Oliver left for the gym one morning, and then drove to the address she had found for Michael's office downtown. Her hands trembled slightly as she parked her car and walked into the sleek office building, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The receptionist smiled at her as she approached the desk. "I'm here to see Michael Stone," Melanie said, her voice steady, despite the nerves racing through her. "I don't have an appointment, but I'm a friend of his." The receptionist nodded, making a quick phone call before directing Melanie to Michael's office on the 15th floor. As she rode the elevator up, Melanie's heart raced. She wasn't sure how Michael would react when he saw her, but she was ready for whatever came next. She was done being the victim in this twisted game. When she reached Michael's office, she knocked on the door, her stomach twisting in anticipation. A moment later, the door swung open, and Michael stood there, surprised to see her. "Melanie," he said, raising an eyebrow. "What are you doing here?" Melanie forced a polite smile, though her eyes were cold. "We need to talk," Michael frowned, stepping aside to let her in. "About what?" Melanie walked into the office, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She turned to face him, her heart pounding but her resolve unwavering. "About Oliver," she said, her voice hardening. "And the bet." Michael's eyes widened in shock, but he quickly masked it with a smirk. "Ah, so you know." "I know everything," Melanie replied, her voice steady. "And I'm not here to yell or make a scene. I'm here because I want you to confirm what I already know." Michael chuckled, leaning back against his desk. "You've got guts, Melanie. I'll give you that. But what exactly are you hoping to get out of this?" "I want the truth," Melanie said firmly. "I want to hear it from you, all of it." Michael regarded her for a moment, then shrugged. "Fine. You want the truth? Here it is. Oliver made a bet. He was supposed to date you for 6 months, marry you if he had to, and in return, he'd get a prime piece of property in Malibu. It was all just a game. But you already knew that, didn't you?" Melanie clenched her fists at her sides, her nails digging into her palms. Hearing it out loud in Michael's smug voice made the betrayal feel even more real, but she didn't let it show. Instead, she took a deep breath and nodded. "Thank you for your honesty," she said, her voice icy. "That's all I needed to know." Michael smirked again. "What are you going to do now? Tell him off? Cry? You know, you're not the first woman to get played by a guy like Oliver." Melanie's expression darkened. "No, I'm not going to cry. And I'm not going to let him get away with it either. Enjoy your game while you can, Michael, because it's about to end." Without waiting for his response, Melanie turned and walked out of the office, her heart pounding with both anger and determination. She had everything she needed now. The truth was out, and soon Oliver would face the consequences of his actions. Back in her car, Melanie sat for a moment, letting the weight of everything sink in. She had heard the truth straight from Michael's mouth, and now there was no turning back. Her plan was in motion, and she was ready to see it through. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming her power, about standing up for herself after being played so cruelly. She would make sure Oliver felt the full weight of his betrayal, and when the time came, she would walk away with her head held high. The storm inside her was no longer one of pain, but one of resolve. Melanie sat in her car, staring at the dashboard, her mind spinning after the confrontation with Michael. Hearing the truth about Oliver's bet confirmed in Michael's smug voice had been like a dagger to the heart. But instead of breaking down, instead of letting the betrayal consume her, Melanie had made a decision. She was going to fight back in the only way that felt right, by making Oliver face the consequences of his deception. Her heart ached, but there was no time to wallow in pain. She had to stay focused, stay composed, and see this through to the end. She wasn't the same woman she had been 6 months ago. The Melanie who once doubted her worth, who questioned why someone like Oliver would choose her, had been shattered. In her place was a woman who had learned the value of self-respect and resilience. As she drove back to her apartment, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Oliver. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Thinking of you." Melanie's grip tightened on the steering wheel. The idea that Oliver still thought he could get away with his lies made her stomach turn. He had no idea that she knew the truth, that his game was unraveling faster than he realized. She texted back, her response simple and calm, "I'll be waiting." That evening, Melanie prepared dinner like nothing had changed. She set the table, lit candles, and even poured wine, keeping up the facade of the doting fiancé. It was strange, the way she had grown so accustomed to pretending. She had spent the last few days playing the role, waiting for the right moment to strike. And now, that moment was getting closer. When Oliver arrived, he was his usual charming self, walking through the door with a bouquet of flowers and a kiss for Melanie. But as he greeted her, Melanie couldn't help but notice the subtle tension in his demeanor. He was smiling, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes. Guilt, perhaps, or maybe the weight of the secret he had been carrying for so long. "Hey, babe," he said, pulling her into a hug. "You've really outdone yourself tonight. This looks amazing." Melanie smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "I thought we could have a quiet night in, just the two of us." Oliver nodded, oblivious to the storm brewing inside her. "Sounds perfect." As they sat down to eat, Melanie watched him closely, taking in every detail of his behavior. She had become an expert at reading his every move, every shift in tone. She could tell he was distracted, but he was trying hard to hide it. "So," Oliver began, cutting into his food, "how's the wedding planning going? Everything still on track?" Melanie felt a cold chill run down her spine at the mention of the wedding. She had spent weeks obsessing over every detail, pouring her heart into planning what she thought would be the happiest day of her life. Now, it all felt like a cruel joke. "It's going fine," she replied, her voice steady. "Though I've been thinking, maybe we're rushing things a little." Oliver looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "Rushing? I thought you were excited about it." "I was," Melanie said carefully, choosing her words. "But I've had some time to think. I don't want to rush into something as important as marriage without being absolutely sure." Oliver's eyes darkened slightly, and for the first time, she saw a hint of nervousness in his expression. "Melanie, what are you saying? Are you having second thoughts?" Melanie took a sip of her wine, allowing the silence to stretch between them. She could feel the tension building, feel the moment drawing closer when everything would come crashing down, but she wasn't ready to reveal her hand just yet. "No," she said finally, "I'm not having second thoughts. I just want to make sure we're both on the same page about everything. After all, marriage is a big step. We need to be honest with each other." Oliver shifted in his seat, his discomfort evident. "Of course. You know I'm committed to this, to us." Melanie nodded, her heart pounding. "Good, because I've been thinking a lot about honesty lately, about trust." Oliver's expression tightened, but he forced a smile. And I've realized that trust is the most important thing in a relationship. Without it, nothing else matters. The room grew quiet, the air thick with unspoken words. Melanie could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on both of them. She knew Oliver was sensing that something was off, but he had no idea just how much she knew. "I agree," Oliver said slowly, his voice careful. "Trust is everything." Melanie met his gaze, her eyes cold. "Then let's talk about trust." Oliver froze, his fork suspended halfway to his mouth. His smile faltered, and for the first time, she saw real fear flicker in his eyes. "Melanie, what's going on?" he asked, his voice low, cautious. Melanie leaned back in her chair, her hands trembling slightly beneath the table. She had been waiting for this moment for days, but now that it was here, the weight of it threatened to overwhelm her. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I know about the bet, Oliver." Her words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to go off. The color drained from Oliver's face, his eyes widening in shock. What are you talking about?" he stammered, his voice cracking. Melanie's gaze didn't waver. "The bet, the one you made with Michael. The one where you were supposed to date me for 6 months, marry me if necessary, all for a piece of property in Malibu. Does that sound familiar?" Oliver's mouth opened, but no words came out. He stared at her, stunned, as if the ground had just been ripped out from under him. "I know everything," Melanie continued, her voice cold and steady. "I talked to Michael. He confirmed it all. So don't bother trying to lie to me." Oliver's chest heaved, his breathing shallow as he struggled to find his voice. "Melanie, I can explain." "No," Melanie interrupted, her voice sharp. "You don't get to explain. I've spent months believing you, trusting you, falling in love with you. And all this time it was a game to you, a bet. You used me, Oliver." Oliver reached for her hand, but Melanie pulled back, her eyes flashing with fury. "Please, just listen. It started as a bet, yes, but it's not what you think. I swear, I never meant for it to go this far. I didn't expect to what? Fall in love with me," Melanie snapped, her voice laced with bitterness. "Do you really expect me to believe that?" "I'm telling the truth," Oliver pleaded, his voice desperate. "I know I messed up. I know I should have told you, but I didn't know how. I didn't want to lose you." Melanie laughed bitterly, the sound cold and hollow. "You didn't want to lose me. You never had me, Oliver. What we had was built on lies." Oliver stood up, pacing the room, his hands running through his hair as he tried to collect himself. "Melanie, please, I can fix this. I'll make it right." "There's nothing to fix," Melanie said, her voice breaking. "You can't undo what you've done. You played with my life, with my heart, for a stupid bet. Do you have any idea how that feels?" Oliver stopped pacing, his eyes filled with regret, but it was too late. The damage had been done, and nothing he could say would change that. "I didn't mean for it to end like this," Oliver whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't want to hurt you." Melanie stood up, her body trembling with a mix of anger and sorrow. "But you did." The silence that followed was deafening. Oliver stood there, helpless, as Melanie picked up her things, her heart shattered beyond repair. "I don't know who you are anymore," she said quietly, her voice thick with tears. "But I know I can't be with you." With that, she walked out of the apartment, leaving Oliver standing in the wreckage of the life they had built together, a life that had been nothing but a lie. Melanie drove through the streets of Boston, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, her vision blurred by the tears that refused to stop. The confrontation with Oliver had been everything she expected, yet the pain still felt unbearable. Every word she had said to him had been filled with anger and hurt, but it hadn't made the pain any less real. It was as if her heart had been ripped open, and no amount of fury could patch the gaping wound. She pulled into a quiet parking lot near the harbor, needing to escape the world, needing time to think. She turned off the engine and sat in silence. The only sound, the gentle lapping of the water against the dock. Her body trembled, the adrenaline from the confrontation slowly draining, leaving behind an overwhelming sadness. How could she have been so blind? She had trusted him, loved him, and believed in the future they were building together. And now, it was all gone, just like that. She had dreamed of a life with him, a marriage filled with love and partnership, but it had all been built on lies, a stupid bet, nothing more. Melanie wiped her tears and stared out at the water, her mind racing. What was she supposed to do now? Everything she had built with Oliver was gone. The wedding she had been planning for months no longer existed. The future she had envisioned had vanished in an instant. And yet, in the wreckage of their relationship, something inside her began to stir. "I'll survive this," she thought. "I have to." Meanwhile, back at the apartment, Oliver stood frozen in the aftermath of Melanie's departure. His heart pounded in his chest as he tried to process what had just happened. The truth was out. Melanie knew everything, and the look in her eyes, the raw pain and betrayal, was something he would never forget. He had never meant to hurt her this way, but now that the damage was done, the weight of his actions settled over him like a crushing force. He sank into the couch, running his hands through his hair, his mind a whirlwind of regret. How had it come to this? When he had first agreed to the bet, it had seemed harmless enough, a game, a challenge to prove he could have anyone. But along the way, something had changed. Melanie had changed him. He didn't want to admit it, but his feelings for her were real. Somewhere between the lies and the manipulation, he had fallen in love with her. And now, it was too late. He had lost her. The woman he had come to care about more than anything was gone, and he had no one to blame but himself. His phone buzzed on the coffee table, pulling him from his thoughts. It was a message from Michael. Everything good, the bet's almost done. Oliver stared at the message, a wave of disgust rising in his chest. He couldn't stand the thought of talking to Michael, of being reminded of the reason why this had all started. The bet had cost him more than he could have ever imagined. Without replying, Oliver tossed the phone aside and buried his face in his hands. He needed to figure out what to do next, how to make things right. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't be that simple. He had broken Melanie's heart, and no amount of apologies could fix that. Days passed, and Melanie struggled to find her footing. She went through the motions of her daily life, working at the library, meeting with friends, but nothing felt real anymore. Her heart was heavy with the weight of what had happened, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw Oliver's face, heard his voice, and felt the sting of his betrayal all over again. Sarah had been by her side, offering support, but even her best friend couldn't mend the wounds that Oliver had left. They had gone out for drinks one night, and Sarah had tried to convince her that she was better off without him. "You deserve better than that, Melanie," Sarah had said, her voice filled with righteous anger. "You deserve someone who actually values you, not some guy who used you for a bet." Melanie had nodded, knowing Sarah was right. But that didn't make the pain any less real. Every part of her ached for the man she had thought Oliver was, the man who had made her feel special, loved, and wanted. But that man didn't exist. He had been a lie all along. One evening, Melanie found herself sitting alone in her apartment, staring at the wedding dress she had bought weeks ago. It hung in the corner of her bedroom, a haunting reminder of the life she thought she was going to have. She had dreamed of wearing that dress, of walking down the aisle toward Oliver, of starting a life with him, but now the dress was just a painful symbol of everything she had lost. She stood up, walking over to the dress, her fingers grazing the delicate fabric. For a moment, she let herself imagine what might have been, the wedding, the vows, the love they could have shared. But the fantasy was quickly shattered by the reality of the bet, and Melanie's heart hardened. She couldn't live in the past anymore. She couldn't let Oliver's betrayal define her. She had to move forward, no matter how much it hurt. "I'm stronger than this," she reminded herself. "I will survive this." As Melanie began to piece her life back together, Oliver was falling apart. The weight of his actions was unbearable, and he couldn't stop thinking about Melanie. He had tried to reach out to her, texting, calling, even showing up at her apartment, but she wouldn't answer. She had shut him out completely, and he didn't blame her. He had betrayed her in the worst possible way. One evening, desperate and guilt-ridden, Oliver found himself standing outside her apartment building. He knew he had no right to be there, but he couldn't stay away. He needed to see her, to explain himself, to beg for forgiveness. He wasn't sure what he hoped to accomplish, but he couldn't live with the silence any longer. He rang the doorbell, his heart racing as he waited. There was no answer. He rang again, and still nothing. Defeated, he turned to leave, but just as he was about to walk away, the door opened. Melanie stood there, her eyes cold and distant. She didn't say anything, just looked at him with a mixture of anger and sadness that pierced him to his core. "Melanie, please," Oliver began, his voice breaking. "I just need to talk to you." She didn't move, didn't invite him in. Her expression was unreadable, but her silence spoke volumes. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," Oliver continued, his voice trembling. "But I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything." Melanie crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. "Sorry isn't enough, Oliver." He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I know, but I need you to understand. It wasn't just a game to me, not anymore. Somewhere along the way, Don't!" Melanie interrupted, her voice sharp. "Don't you dare say you fell in love with me. You don't get to do that. You don't get to pretend that what you did wasn't completely selfish and cruel." Oliver's heart sank. He had known this wouldn't be easy, but hearing the bitterness in her voice was like a knife to his chest. "I know I hurt you," he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion, "and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But I didn't expect to feel this way, Melanie. I didn't expect to care about you." "But you did it anyway," Melanie shot back, her voice trembling with anger. "You made a bet. You used me. Do you have any idea what that feels like?" Oliver's chest tightened as he watched the tears welling up in her eyes. He wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her that everything would be okay. But he knew that was a lie. Nothing would be okay. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I don't know how to fix this." Melanie shook her head, her tears finally spilling over. "You can't fix it, Oliver. You can't undo what you did." They stood there in silence, the weight of their broken relationship hanging heavy between them. Melanie wiped her tears and took a deep breath, her voice steady but full of finality. "I need you to leave," she said quietly, "and don't come back." Oliver opened his mouth to protest, to beg for another chance, but the look in her eyes stopped him. He had lost her. There was no going back. With a heavy heart, Oliver turned and walked away, each step feeling like a nail in the coffin of the life they could have had. As he disappeared down the street, Melanie closed the door behind him, leaning against it as the sobs finally overtook her. The days following her final confrontation with Oliver were some of the hardest Melanie had ever faced. She had thought that cutting him out of her life would bring a sense of closure, but instead, she felt hollow. Every corner of her apartment reminded her of him, the nights they had spent cooking together, the quiet mornings sipping coffee, the plans for a future that would never come to be. It wasn't just the loss of Oliver that weighed on her. It was the loss of the life she had imagined. She had been so sure that they would be together forever, that she had finally found someone who saw her for who she was and loved her anyway. But all of that had been an illusion, a carefully crafted lie that crumbled the moment she learned about the bet. Melanie spent most of her days at the library, trying to immerse herself in her work, but the distraction wasn't enough. She had become good at wearing a mask, at pretending everything was fine when her co-workers asked how she was doing. She smiled, she laughed when appropriate, but inside, she was still broken. Sarah was a constant presence, doing her best to lift Melanie's spirits, but even she couldn't fully ease the ache in Melanie's heart. They spent hours talking, Sarah offering words of encouragement and telling Melanie that she was better off without Oliver, but it didn't change the fact that Melanie still missed him, despite everything. A part of her still longed for the man she thought he was. One afternoon, Melanie sat in a small cafe downtown, staring out the window as the rain drizzled down. The city seemed to mirror her mood, grey, heavy, and slow. She stirred her tea absent-mindedly, her thoughts drifting back to the months she had spent with Oliver. She hated that she couldn't stop thinking about him, that he still occupied so much space in her mind. Why couldn't she just let him go? The bell above the cafe door jingled, pulling Melanie from her thoughts. She glanced up and froze when she saw Oliver walk in. For a moment, their eyes met and Melanie's heart clenched painfully. She hadn't seen him since she told him to leave, and the sight of him standing there, looking lost and uncertain, brought a flood of emotions rushing back. Oliver stood in the doorway, clearly as shocked to see her as she was to see him. He hesitated, as if unsure whether to approach, but after a moment, he stepped forward, moving toward her table. Melanie's breath caught in her throat. Part of her wanted to get up and walk out, to avoid the conversation she knew was coming. But another part of her, the part that still cared, despite everything, kept her glued to her seat. "Melanie," Oliver said softly when he reached her table. His voice was filled with hesitation, as though he wasn't sure if he was allowed to say her name anymore. "Can I sit?" Melanie stared at him for a moment, weighing her options. She could tell him to leave, but she knew it wouldn't make a difference. He had already taken so much from her. What was one more conversation? "Go ahead," she said, her voice guarded as she gestured to the empty seat across from her. Oliver sat down, looking more vulnerable than she had ever seen him. There was no mask of charm this time, no carefully crafted persona. He looked human, and for some reason, that made it even harder. "I didn't expect to see you here," Oliver said, his eyes searching hers. Melanie shrugged, not sure what to say. The last thing she wanted was small talk. "It's a public place," she said, her tone distant. Oliver nodded, his hands fidgeting on the table. He was quiet for a moment before he spoke again, his voice low and filled with regret. "I know I'm the last person you want to see right now, but I've been trying to find a way to talk to you." Melanie looked at him, her heart tightening. She could see the pain in his eyes, the guilt weighing him down. But it didn't make what he had done any less hurtful. "What do you want, Oliver?" she asked quietly. "We've already said everything there is to say." "I know," Oliver replied, his voice shaking slightly. "But I can't just leave things like this. I need you to know how sorry I am, not just for the bet, but for everything. I know I hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to understand that what we had wasn't a lie, not for me." Melanie felt a lump form in her throat, but she forced herself to stay composed. "You made a bet, Oliver. You used me. How could any of that be real?" "It wasn't real at first," Oliver admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "But somewhere along the way, it became real for me. I didn't expect to fall in love with you, but I did." Melanie looked away, not wanting him to see the tears forming in her eyes. She didn't want to hear these words now, not after everything that had happened. "It's too late for that," she whispered. "You don't get to say those things now." "I know," Oliver said, his voice breaking. "I know it's too late, but I couldn't walk away without telling you the truth. I should have told you a long time ago, and I'll regret not doing it for the rest of my life. I ruined everything, and I hate myself for it." Melanie closed her eyes, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill over. She didn't know what to believe anymore. Oliver's words sounded genuine, but how could she trust anything he said? How could she believe that he wasn't just trying to manipulate her again? "I don't know what you want me to say," Melanie said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You broke me, Oliver. You took something from me that I can never get back. Trust, love, hope. How am I supposed to just move on from that?" Oliver looked at her, his expression filled with sorrow. "I don't expect you to move on. I don't expect you to forgive me. I need you to know that I love you, and I'm sorry." Melanie finally looked at him, her eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. "I loved you too," she said, her voice trembling, "and you destroyed that." The silence between them was heavy, filled with all the things they couldn't say, all the things that were left broken between them. For a moment, it felt like the world had stopped, like they were the only two people in the cafe, drowning in their shared pain. "I'm sorry," Oliver whispered again, his voice barely audible. Melanie took a deep breath, wiping away her tears. She couldn't stay in this moment forever. She had to find a way to move forward, to rebuild her life without him. She had to let him go, even if it hurt. "I can't do this anymore," Melanie said softly, her voice steady despite the tears. "I can't keep holding on to something that's already gone. You need to leave, Oliver. For good this time." Oliver's face crumbled, but he nodded, understanding that there was no more he could say or do. He had lost her, and there was no going back. "Goodbye, Melanie," he whispered, standing up from the table. Melanie watched as he walked out of the cafe, disappearing into the rain-soaked streets. She let out a shaky breath, her heart heavy but somehow lighter at the same time. It was over, truly over. Over the next few weeks, Melanie focused on rebuilding her life. The pain of losing Oliver was still there, but it wasn't as sharp as it had been. She began to find comfort in her routines again, her work at the library, her time spent with Sarah, and even the quiet moments at home. She had thrown herself into self-care, not just physically but emotionally too. She read books that inspired her, attended a few therapy sessions to help sort through her emotions, and even started taking long walks in the park to clear her mind. It wasn't easy, but day by day, she was learning how to heal. One afternoon, while walking along the river, Melanie stopped to watch the boats pass by. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the water, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. She didn't know what the future held, but she was finally starting to believe that it could be good again. Maybe she would find love again one day, maybe she wouldn't, but for the first time, that didn't scare her. She was enough, just as she was. "I'll be okay," she thought, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I'll be okay." As the weeks rolled on, Melanie gradually found herself emerging from the fog of pain that had clouded her heart since the breakup. There were days when the memories of Oliver still hit her like a tidal wave, threatening to pull her back into the depths of hurt and betrayal. But more and more, she was learning to navigate those emotions, to let them come and go without drowning in them. She had spent enough time mourning the loss of her relationship. Now, it was time to focus on healing, not just from Oliver, but from all the wounds that life had dealt her over the years. The insecurities that had plagued her for so long, the doubts about her worth, her appearance, and her ability to be loved. Those were the battles she needed to fight now. Melanie had always struggled with her self-image. Even before Oliver, she had felt like she wasn't good enough, like she wasn't worthy of the kind of love she dreamed about. And though Oliver's betrayal had cut deep, it had also forced her to confront those insecurities in a way she had never done before. The pain he caused had revealed the cracks in her foundation, but now she was determined to rebuild herself, stronger, wiser, and without relying on anyone else's approval to feel whole. One evening, as she sat at her desk in the library, Melanie found herself reflecting on the person she had been before Oliver came into her life. She had always been a bit of a dreamer, losing herself in the pages of romance novels, believing that one day her own love story would unfold with the same passion and certainty. But reality had taught her a painful lesson. Love wasn't a fairy tale, and sometimes the person you trusted the most was the one who would hurt you the deepest. She sighed, closing the book she had been pretending to read. She wasn't that woman anymore, the one who placed all her hope in the idea of being saved by love. She had learned the hard way that the only person who could truly save her was herself. Melanie glanced out the large windows of the library, watching the sun begin to set over the city. She had always loved this time of day, when the light softened and the world seemed to slow down for just a moment. It was peaceful, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace within herself. It wasn't that she had completely moved on from Oliver, far from it. The memories of him still lingered like a dull ache in her chest, but she was no longer defined by what he had done to her. She was starting to define herself again, to rediscover the person she had always been beneath the hurt. Later that week, Melanie attended her first therapy session since the breakup. It had taken her some time to reach out for help, but after several gentle nudges from Sarah, she had finally decided it was time to talk to someone. She knew she couldn't navigate this emotional landscape alone, and she wanted to make sure she healed in a healthy way. Sitting in the therapist's office, Melanie felt a sense of vulnerability she hadn't expected. She had spent so long pretending to be strong, to have everything under control, that now, faced with the prospect of opening up about her pain, she felt exposed. Her therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Morgan, greeted her with a warm smile as they settled into their session. "So, Melanie, tell me what brings you here today." Melanie took a deep breath, her hands fidgeting in her lap. I guess I just need help figuring out how to move forward. I've been through a lot lately, and I'm not sure how to heal from it." Dr. Morgan nodded, her expression gentle and understanding. "It's not easy to go through something like this, especially when it shakes your sense of trust. Why don't we start with the relationship that's been weighing on your mind?" And so, Melanie began to talk. She told Dr. Morgan about Oliver, about the bet, about how deeply she had loved him and how profoundly he had betrayed her. She spoke about her insecurities, the self-doubt that had plagued her for most of her life, and how the breakup had made those feelings even harder to bear. As she spoke, the tears she had been holding back for so long began to flow freely. But instead of feeling ashamed, Melanie felt a sense of relief. It was as though a weight had been lifted off her chest, and for the first time, she could breathe again. Dr. Morgan listened patiently, offering small insights and encouragement along the way. By the end of the session, Melanie felt lighter, as though she had taken the first step on a new path, one that led toward healing, self-acceptance, and ultimately, self-love. Over the next few months, Melanie's life slowly began to take shape again. She threw herself into her work, finding solace in the familiar routine of the library. She spent more time with Sarah and her other friends, reconnecting with the parts of her life that didn't revolve around romantic love. She also made time for herself in ways she hadn't before. She started going to the gym, not because she felt like she had to, but because she wanted to. She found that exercise helped clear her mind, that it gave her a sense of control over her body that she had never felt before. It wasn't about losing weight or changing her appearance. It was about feeling strong, about knowing that she could push herself and grow in ways she hadn't thought possible. Her therapist had encouraged her to set small goals, to focus on the things that brought her joy. So, Melanie started exploring new hobbies, yoga, painting, even taking a cooking class. She found that the more she invested in herself, the less space Oliver occupied in her mind. He was still there, a ghost lingering in the corners of her thoughts, but he no longer defined her. One afternoon, Melanie found herself sitting by the river, a book in her lap, as the sun warmed her skin. It was a beautiful spring day, and the park was alive with the sounds of people laughing, dogs barking, and children playing. For the first time in a long time, Melanie felt content. As she sat there, watching the boats pass by on the water, she reflected on how far she had come. The pain of Oliver's betrayal had once consumed her, but now it felt like a distant memory, still present, but no longer overpowering. She had grown stronger, more resilient, and she had learned that her worth wasn't tied to anyone else's approval or love. She had learned to trust herself again. Melanie smiled, feeling a sense of pride in how much she had accomplished. She wasn't the same woman she had been when she first met Oliver. She was someone stronger, someone who knew her own value, someone who didn't need a man to define her happiness. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm golden glow over the river, Melanie stood up and stretched. She had work to do. There were new chapters in her life waiting to be written, and this time, she was the one holding the pen. Meanwhile, Oliver's life had taken a different turn. After losing Melanie, he had tried to focus on his career, on moving forward, but nothing felt the same. He had thought that winning the bet would bring him some sense of victory, but instead, it had left him hollow. The Malibu property meant nothing without Melanie by his side. He had reached out to her a few more times, hoping for a chance to explain himself, to make things right, but Melanie had made it clear that there was no going back. She was done with him, and he had no choice but to accept it. Over time, Oliver began to realize that he had been chasing the wrong things all along. His entire life had been about winning at business, at relationships, at everything. But in the process, he had lost sight of what really mattered. He had hurt the one person who had seen past all of his bravado and loved him for who he really was. And now, she was gone. The regret weighed heavily on him, and for the first time in his life, Oliver wasn't sure how to move forward. It had been several months since Melanie had last seen or heard from Oliver. The distance between them had given her the space she needed to heal, to rebuild the pieces of herself that had been broken. With time, she had grown stronger, more self-assured, and for the first time in years, she felt at peace with herself. Her days were filled with new hobbies, quality time with friends, and work that she loved. And yet, despite the progress she had made, there were still moments when the past crept up on her, reminding her of the wounds that had not fully healed. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Melanie and Sarah were walking through a local farmer's market, browsing the fresh produce and artisanal goods. The market had always been one of Melanie's favorite places, a simple pleasure that brought her comfort. Today, it was alive with color and activity, the air filled with the smell of fresh bread and flowers. Sarah was in high spirits, chatting excitedly about a new project she had taken on at work, but Melanie's mind was wandering. She had come a long way since her breakup with Oliver, but there were still days when the memories of him, of them, slipped into her thoughts like an unwanted visitor. She hated that he still had that power over her, even after all this time. She hated that part of her still wondered what might have been if things had turned out differently. "Hey, Em," Sarah's voice cut through her thoughts, bringing her back to the present. "You've been kind of quiet today. Everything okay?" Melanie forced a smile, shaking off the melancholy that had settled over her. "Yeah, I'm fine, just thinking." Sarah gave her a knowing look. "About Oliver?" Melanie sighed, shrugging as they continued walking past the vendor stalls. "I don't know. It's not like I miss him or anything, but I guess there are still some things I haven't fully dealt with." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "That's totally normal. You went through a lot with him. It's going to take time." "I know," Melanie said, her voice soft. "It's just frustrating sometimes. I've moved on in so many ways, but every now and then something reminds me of him, and it's like I'm right back where I started." "You're doing great," Sarah reassured her, linking her arm through Melanie's. "You've come so far, and I'm proud of you. Just because he crosses your mind doesn't mean you're not healing. It just means you're human." Melanie smiled, grateful for Sarah's unwavering support. "Thanks, I really don't know what I'd do without you." "I don't either," Sarah teased with a wink. "But seriously, you're doing amazing. You've built this incredible life for yourself, and you're stronger than ever. Oliver doesn't define you, you define you." Melanie nodded, letting Sarah's words sink in. She knew her friend was right. She had spent the past few months reclaiming her life, learning to value herself without needing validation from anyone else. She was proud of the person she was becoming, even if the journey hadn't always been easy. As they walked through the market, Melanie spotted a familiar face in the crowd, a man she hadn't seen in years. It was Michael, Oliver's friend, and the mastermind behind the bet that had shattered her life. Her heart skipped a beat, and for a moment she froze, watching as he casually browsed a stall across the way. Sarah noticed the change in Melanie's demeanor and followed her gaze. When she saw Michael, her expression darkened. "Is that—" "Yeah," Melanie said quietly, her stomach twisting with a mix of anger and anxiety. Michael hadn't seen them yet, but Melanie wasn't sure if she wanted him to. Part of her wanted to confront him, to finally say all the things she hadn't been able to say the last time they had crossed paths. But another part of her wanted to walk away, to leave the past in the past and not give him the satisfaction of knowing he still had any effect on her. "What do you want to do?" Sarah asked, her tone serious. Melanie hesitated, her mind racing. She had spent so much time healing, working on herself, that she didn't want to be dragged back into the mess that Michael and Oliver had created. But seeing him again, seeing the man who had treated her like a pawn in a cruel game, stirred up emotions she thought she had buried long ago. Before she could decide, Michael turned and spotted them. His eyes widened slightly in recognition, and for a moment, he seemed unsure of what to do. But then, with a casual smile, he made his way toward them. Melanie braced herself, her heart pounding as he approached. She could feel Sarah tense beside her, ready to defend her at a moment's notice. "Melanie," Michael said, his tone surprisingly pleasant. "Long time no see." Melanie stared at him, her emotions swirling. She had never confronted him directly after learning about the bet. Back then, her focus had been on Oliver, on the betrayal that had hurt the most. But now, face to face with Michael, all the anger and resentment she had felt came rushing back. "What do you want, Michael?" Melanie asked, her voice colder than she expected. Michael raised an eyebrow, as if surprised by her hostility. "I don't want anything. I just saw you and thought I'd say hello." "Hello," Melanie said flatly. "Goodbye." She turned to leave, but Michael's voice stopped her. "Look, I know what happened between you and Oliver was messed up. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. None of us expected things to end the way they did." Melanie turned back to face him, her eyes flashing with anger. "You're sorry. You and Oliver made a bet about my life. You didn't care about me or my feelings. I was just some game to you." Michael held up his hands defensively. "I know. And I'm not here to make excuses. I just wanted to say that I've seen what it's done to Oliver. He regrets everything, Melanie. He really cared about you." Melanie's heart clenched at the mention of Oliver, but she refused to let Michael see how much it still hurt. "I don't care what Oliver regrets," she said, her voice firm. "It's too late for apologies. You both played with my life, and I've had to spend months picking up the pieces." Michael's expression softened slightly, and for a moment, he looked almost remorseful. "I get that, and I don't expect you to forgive us, but I wanted you to know that Oliver hasn't been the same since you left. He's changed. Good for him," Melanie said bitterly. "I hope he finds whatever he's looking for." "But I'm done with both of you," Michael nodded, sensing that the conversation was over. "Fair enough. I just thought you should know." Without another word, Melanie turned and walked away, Sarah by her side. Her heart was pounding, but as she put distance between herself and Michael, she felt a strange sense of relief. She had faced one of the people who had hurt her, and she hadn't crumbled. She had stood her ground. As they left the market, Sarah looked over at her. "You okay?" Melanie nodded. "Yeah, I think I am." The encounter with Michael had stirred up old emotions, but it had also given Melanie a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. Seeing him again had reminded her of how far she had come, how much stronger she was now than she had been when the bet had first come to light. She had faced her demons, and she had walked away. That night, as Melanie sat in her apartment, reflecting on the day's events, she realized that she was finally ready to move forward, truly move forward. The past would always be a part of her, but it no longer defined her. She had survived the storm, and now she was ready to embrace the calm that followed. For the first time in months, Melanie felt a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that whatever came next, she would face it with the strength she had found within herself. A week had passed since Melanie's run-in with Michael at the farmer's market. The encounter had shaken her more than she was willing to admit. Though she had walked away from it feeling empowered, the conversation with Michael had stirred up feelings she thought she had buried. The fact that Oliver had been struggling, that he regretted what he'd done, lingered in her mind. She didn't want to care about how he felt. She had told herself that she was over it, that she had moved on, but the truth was more complicated. Melanie had spent so long trying to forget about Oliver, to focus on her own healing and her own growth. But part of healing, she realized, wasn't just about moving forward. It was about confronting the past in a way that brought true closure, and she wasn't sure if she had done that yet. There was a part of her that still held on to the hurt, the betrayal, and maybe even the love she once had for him. One rainy evening, Melanie was sitting in her apartment, curled up on the couch with a cup of tea and a book. The soft patter of rain against the window was comforting, and for a while, she lost herself in the story she was reading. But her peaceful moment was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Melanie frowned, not expecting anyone. Sarah had already texted earlier to say she wouldn't be able to meet up tonight, and she wasn't expecting any deliveries. She set her book aside and stood up, her heart skipping a beat as a sudden, inexplicable sense of foreboding settled over her. When she opened the door, her breath caught in her throat. Standing there, drenched from the rain, was Oliver. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Melanie's heart raced, a whirlwind of emotions swirling through her as she took in the sight of him. He looked different, tired, worn down, as if the weight of the past months had taken a toll on him. His hair was wet, droplets of rain sliding down his face, but his eyes, those same blue eyes she had once been so captivated by, held a vulnerability she had never seen before. "Melanie," Oliver said, his voice low and hesitant, "I'm sorry for showing up like this, but I needed to see you." Melanie's mind raced, her emotions a chaotic mix of anger, sadness, and something she didn't want to acknowledge, relief. She had told herself she never wanted to see him again, but now that he was standing in front of her, a part of her couldn't deny the unresolved feelings that still lingered. "What are you doing here, Oliver?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Oliver hesitated, his eyes searching hers, as if trying to gauge whether he should say what he came to say. "I know I'm the last person you want to see, and I wouldn't blame you if you slammed the door in my face. But I need to talk to you. I need to apologize, properly." Melanie's heart clenched. She had heard his apologies before, but those moments had been full of raw emotion, with neither of them thinking clearly. Now, though, he seemed different, more composed, more sincere, and against her better judgment, she found herself stepping aside, allowing him to enter. Oliver walked in slowly, his eyes scanning the apartment as if he were seeing it for the first time. It was the same space where they had spent so many evenings together, cooking, laughing, sharing stories about their day. The memories felt distant now, like they belonged to another life. Melanie closed the door behind him, crossing her arms as she faced him. "You said what you needed to say the last time we saw each other, Oliver. I don't know what else there is to talk about." Oliver sighed, running a hand through his damp hair. "I know. And I don't expect you to forgive me, but I've been carrying this guilt for so long, and I can't move forward until I make things right. I hurt you, Melanie. I know I did, and I can never take that back. But I need you to understand that I'm not the man I was when we started this." Melanie shook her head, her anger simmering just beneath the surface. "You lied to me for months, Oliver. You made a bet about my life, and now you're telling me you've changed. How am I supposed to believe that?" "I know it sounds like just words," Oliver admitted, his voice filled with regret. "But I've had time to reflect on everything, and losing you, it made me realize how much I'd gotten wrong. I spent my whole life trying to prove something, to win at everything, and in the process, I lost the one thing that actually mattered." Melanie felt her resolve waver. She didn't want to feel sympathy for him, didn't want to acknowledge the vulnerability in his voice, but despite everything, she knew how much Oliver had struggled with his need for control, his obsession with winning. It was the very thing that had driven him to make the bet in the first place. "You don't get to fix this with a few heartfelt words," Melanie said, her voice trembling with the weight of her emotions. "You don't get to show up and expect me to believe that you've suddenly changed. What you did to me, it broke me, Oliver. It made me doubt everything I thought I knew about myself." "I know," Oliver whispered, his eyes filled with pain. "And I hate myself for it, but that's why I'm here. I don't expect you to forgive me, and I don't expect us to go back to what we were. I needed to tell you that I'm sorry, truly sorry. And I'll regret hurting you for the rest of my life." Melanie stared at him, her heart aching with a mix of sadness and anger. She had dreamed of this moment for months, imagined what it would be like to finally hear him acknowledge the pain he had caused her. But now that it was happening, she didn't know how to feel. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Oliver nodded, his expression somber. "I understand. And if you never do, I'll accept that. But I need you to know that I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here because I can't move on without at least trying to make amends." There was a long silence between them, the weight of the past heavy in the air. Melanie looked into Oliver's eyes and saw the man she had once loved, the man who had made her feel special, even if it had all been a lie. But she also saw the man who had broken her heart, the man who had used her as a pawn in a game she hadn't even known she was playing. Finally, Melanie spoke, her voice steady but filled with the pain that still lingered. "I'm glad you're sorry, Oliver. I'm glad you've had time to think about what you did. But I've spent too long picking up the pieces of my life, and I can't go back to the person I was when I was with you." Oliver looked at her, his eyes filled with sorrow. "I don't expect you to. I just wanted you to know that I've changed, and that I'll never stop regretting what I did." Melanie nodded, her heart heavy. "I appreciate that, but we can't rewrite the past. What's done is done." Oliver stood there for a moment, his shoulders slumped as the reality of her words sank in. He had come here hoping for closure, but now he realized that closure didn't mean forgiveness. It meant accepting the consequences of his actions, even if that meant never being able to make things right with Melanie. "I understand," Oliver said softly, his voice filled with a quiet resignation. "I won't bother you again." He turned to leave, but before he reached the door, Melanie spoke once more. "Oliver," she said, her voice soft but firm, "I hope you find peace. I hope you can learn from this and become a better person. But you need to move on too." Oliver nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He gave her one last look, a look filled with the weight of everything left unsaid, and then he walked out the door, disappearing into the rainy night. As Melanie stood there, alone in her apartment, she felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. The conversation had been hard, but it had also been necessary. She hadn't forgiven Oliver, and she wasn't sure she ever would, but hearing his apology, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, had given her the closure she hadn't realized she needed. She took a deep breath, letting the tension drain from her body. It was over, truly over. And now, for the first time in a long time, she felt like she could finally move forward, free from the weight of the past. Melanie walked over to the window, watching as the rain continued to fall. The storm had passed, and though the clouds still lingered, she knew that clearer skies lay ahead. The days after Oliver's apology were surprisingly quiet for Melanie. She had expected the encounter to stir up more emotions, to leave her reeling like it had so many times before. But instead, she found herself feeling lighter, as though a weight she hadn't fully realized she was carrying had finally been lifted. It was as if she had crossed an invisible threshold, one that separated her from the person she had been when her world was wrapped up in Oliver. For the first time since the breakup, Melanie felt at peace. She had heard what she needed to hear from him, not for reconciliation, but for closure. His apology didn't erase what had happened, but it allowed her to close that chapter of her life with a sense of finality. And now, for the first time, she was ready to truly move forward. As the weeks passed, Melanie threw herself into her life with renewed energy. She found joy in the little things: Sunday morning coffee with Sarah, quiet evenings spent reading, spontaneous hikes in the nearby trails that surrounded the city. The weather was warming up, and with it, Melanie's heart felt like it was coming back to life after a long winter of sorrow. One of the most significant changes in her life came when she decided to apply for a new job at a larger library across the city. She had loved her work at the small local branch, but after everything she had been through, she realized she needed a fresh start, a new environment where she could continue to grow. The opportunity came in the form of a full-time position at the Boston Public Library, a prestigious institution that housed some of the city's most historic collections. It was a dream job, one that challenged her and allowed her to step into a role of more responsibility. The interview process was nerve-wracking, but Melanie was determined. She prepared meticulously, researching the library's history, studying the position requirements, and practicing answers to potential questions. Sarah had been a constant source of encouragement, reminding her how far she had come and how deserving she was of this opportunity. When Melanie finally received the call, offering her the position, she was overwhelmed with emotion. It felt like validation, not just of her professional skills, but of the strength and resilience she had built over the past year. She had worked hard to reclaim her life, and now doors were opening that she hadn't even dreamed of. The day before Melanie's first day at her new job, Sarah invited her out for dinner to celebrate. They met at a cozy Italian restaurant downtown, the kind of place they had always gone to on special occasions. The soft glow of candlelight filled the room, and the comforting scent of fresh pasta and garlic bread hung in the air. "I still can't believe you're going to be working at the Boston Public Library," Sarah said, beaming as she raised her glass of wine. "I'm so proud of you, Em." Melanie smiled, clinking her glass against Sarah's. "I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It feels surreal." "You earned it," Sarah said, her voice full of warmth. "You've been through so much, and you didn't let any of it stop you. This is just the beginning." Melanie took a sip of her wine, savoring the moment. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the people in her life, for the support Sarah had given her through some of the darkest times. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said sincerely. "You've been my rock through all of this." "That's what friends are for," Sarah said with a wink. "But seriously, you've been so strong. I know it wasn't easy, but you came out the other side. And now, look at you, you're thriving." Melanie's heart swelled with pride, but there was also a quiet understanding that the journey wasn't over. Healing wasn't a straight line. There would still be days when the past crept up on her, when the scars of what had happened with Oliver would remind her of how far she had come. But now, those scars felt more like symbols of her strength rather than reminders of her pain. As they finished dinner and walked through the bustling streets of downtown Boston, Melanie felt a renewed sense of excitement for the future. She was ready for this new chapter, for the challenges and opportunities it would bring. The next day, Melanie arrived at the Boston Public Library for her first day of work. The grand entrance of the library loomed before her, its historic facade a testament to the rich cultural history it housed within. As she stepped inside, she was greeted by the familiar scent of old books and polished wood, the quiet hum of people moving through the hall, and the soft rustle of pages turning. Melanie was introduced to her new colleagues and given a tour of the library's vast collections, which ranged from rare manuscripts to modern archives. It was a place filled with knowledge, history, and stories, everything that Melanie had always loved. But more than that, it was a fresh start, a chance to build something new for herself. Her first few weeks were filled with excitement and challenge as she adjusted to her new role. The work was demanding, but it was also deeply rewarding. She felt a sense of fulfillment that she hadn't experienced in a long time, a sense that she was exactly where she was meant to be. As Melanie's life continued to flourish, Oliver's life took a different turn. After their final conversation, he had tried to move on, but the weight of his past mistakes still hung over him like a dark cloud. He threw himself into his work, but even his career, once the most important thing in his life, no longer brought him the satisfaction it used to. One afternoon, Oliver received an unexpected visit from Michael. The two hadn't spoken much since the fallout with Melanie, and Oliver had distanced himself from the people who had once been his closest friends. He had grown tired of the superficiality, the constant need to prove himself, and the games they had all played. When Michael showed up at his office, Oliver was surprised but not entirely unwelcome. He had been thinking a lot about his life, about the choices he had made, and maybe it was time to confront some of the things he had been avoiding. "Hey," Michael said, stepping into the office with a hesitant smile. "It's been a while." "Yeah, it has," Oliver replied, standing up from his desk. "What brings you here?" Michael shrugged, looking unusually serious. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened. With Melanie, with us. I don't know, I guess I wanted to see how you're doing." Oliver sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm doing okay, trying to anyway." Michael nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I've been doing some reflecting too. I know I played a big part in everything that went down with Melanie. I pushed you into that bet, and it messed up more than I realized at the time." Oliver looked at him, surprised by the honesty in his voice. Michael had always been the one to brush things off, to move on without looking back. Hearing him take responsibility was unexpected. "I made the choice to go along with it," Oliver said quietly. "It wasn't just you. I could have said no." "Yeah, but I still pushed it," Michael admitted. "And I'm sorry for that. I guess I just wanted to tell you that I don't want to be the kind of person who ruins people's lives for fun." Oliver nodded, appreciating the sentiment. "Thanks, Michael. I've been thinking a lot about what kind of person I want to be too." The conversation was brief, but it was enough. Enough for Oliver to realize that he wasn't alone in trying to figure out how to move forward, how to rebuild after everything had fallen apart. And while it didn't erase the mistakes they had made, it felt like a small step towards something better. As the days turned into weeks, Melanie continued to thrive in her new job, her life unfolding in ways she hadn't expected. The pain of the past still lingered at times, but it no longer defined her. She had found peace in herself, in her friendships, and in the work that brought her joy. And as the future stretched out before her, Melanie knew that she was ready for whatever came next. Melanie's life continued to flourish at the Boston Public Library. Her days were filled with the quiet satisfaction of working with rare books and manuscripts, surrounded by the history and stories she loved. Each day felt like a small victory, proof that she had rebuilt her life from the ground up, that she had found her way back to herself. Her new job had introduced her to a world of opportunities, and she had even begun collaborating on projects with other libraries across the city. She felt invigorated by the challenges, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. One afternoon, as Melanie sat at her desk, reviewing the schedule for an upcoming event, she received an unexpected email. It was from an old colleague at her previous library, someone she hadn't kept in touch with since starting her new job. The message was short but intriguing. "Hey Melanie, hope you're doing well. I'm writing because I thought you'd be interested to know that we're hosting an exhibition on rare historical documents next month. The event will bring together some major figures in the library world, including a few you may remember. If you're available, it would be great to catch up." Melanie smiled as she read the email. The exhibition sounded like a perfect opportunity to reconnect with old colleagues and explore some of the rare documents she had always been fascinated by. Plus, it felt like a chance to close yet another chapter of her life, the one tied to the people and places she had left behind when she moved on from the local library. The following month, Melanie arrived at the exhibition. The event was being held in a beautiful historic building downtown, one she hadn't been to in years. The moment she stepped inside, she was struck by the grand architecture, the high ceilings, and the intricate woodwork that adorned the walls. The place was filled with people, librarians, scholars, historians, all gathered to admire the rare pieces on display. Melanie moved through the crowd, greeting familiar faces and marveling at the collection of documents, many of which she had only ever read about. It was a librarian's dream come true, and for a while, she allowed herself to get lost in the excitement of it all. But as she was admiring an ancient manuscript in one of the glass cases, she suddenly felt a presence behind her. She turned, and her heart skipped a beat. It was Oliver. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The room seemed to shrink around them, the noise of the crowd fading into the background. Melanie's heart raced, memories of their last conversation flashing through her mind. She hadn't expected to see him here, hadn't even thought it was a possibility. Oliver stood there, looking both surprised and hesitant. His eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, Melanie saw the vulnerability in them, the same vulnerability she had seen when he apologized to her months ago. He had changed since then. That much was clear. The man standing in front of her was not the same one who had made the bet. There was a quiet seriousness about him now, a weight that hadn't been there before. "Melanie," Oliver said softly, breaking the silence. "I didn't expect to see you here." Melanie nodded, still processing the shock of seeing him again. "I didn't expect to see you either." For a moment, they simply stood there, the air between them thick with unspoken words. Melanie felt a strange mix of emotions, surprise, discomfort, and a small, nagging curiosity. She had moved on from Oliver, or at least she thought she had. But seeing him now, in this setting, brought everything rushing back. "I'm here for work," Oliver explained, glancing around the room. "I've been consulting on a few historical projects. I didn't realize you were still involved in events like this." "I started a new job at the Boston Public Library," Melanie replied, her voice steady. "I've been working on a few projects there." Oliver smiled slightly, nodding as if impressed. "That's amazing, Melanie. I always knew you'd go far." Melanie felt a pang of irritation at his words, though she wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because she didn't need his approval anymore. She'd built her life back up on her own terms, without him. "Thanks," she said, her tone polite but distant. "I'm really happy there." An awkward silence settled between them. Melanie wasn't sure what to say next, and for a moment she considered excusing herself and walking away, but something kept her rooted in place. Maybe it was the fact that they had left so many things unsaid the last time they saw each other. Maybe it was the lingering sense that there was still unfinished business between them. Oliver cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "I've thought about you a lot since we last talked," he said, his voice sincere. "I know we've both moved on, but I just want you to know that I'm glad you're doing well. You deserve it." Melanie stared at him, unsure of how to respond. There was no malice in his words, no hidden agenda. He seemed genuinely happy for her, and while part of her appreciated that, another part of her didn't know what to do with the feelings his presence stirred up. "I appreciate that," she said finally, her voice soft, "but I don't think we need to revisit the past. I've spent a lot of time moving forward, and I don't want to get caught up in old wounds." Oliver nodded, his expression serious. "I understand. I didn't come here to reopen old wounds. I just wanted to say that I've changed. Losing you forced me to take a hard look at myself, and I've been trying to be better ever since." Melanie wasn't sure what to say. She had heard similar words from him before, but now they felt different. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the regret that still lingered, and yet she had done so much work to distance herself from him, to build a life without him in it. Did she really want to rehash the past now? Before she could respond, a voice interrupted them. "Melanie, there you are!" Melanie turned to see one of her colleagues from the Boston Public Library approaching, a warm smile on her face. The woman was holding a program for the event, clearly excited about the exhibition. She didn't seem to notice the tension between Melanie and Oliver as she approached. I've been looking for you. There's a piece I think you'll love. It's over in the East Wing. Come see it with me?" Melanie smiled at her colleague, grateful for the interruption. "Of course, I'll be right there." As her colleague walked ahead, Melanie turned back to Oliver, feeling a strange sense of finality. "I have to go," she said, her voice calm. Oliver nodded, understanding. "Take care of yourself, Melanie." "You too," she replied, offering him a small, genuine smile before turning and walking away. As she made her way across the exhibition hall, Melanie felt a sense of closure she hadn't expected. Seeing Oliver again had stirred up old emotions, but it had also reminded her of how far she had come. She wasn't the same person she had been when they were together. She had grown stronger, more confident, and she no longer needed his approval or anyone else's to feel whole. Later that evening, as Melanie walked home from the exhibition, she reflected on the day's events. She had confronted a part of her past that she had tried to forget, and in doing so, she had realized something important. She was no longer defined by her relationship with Oliver. She was her own person, with her own life, her own dreams, and her own future. It was a freeing realization, one that filled her with a quiet sense of peace. She had spent so much time rebuilding herself after the breakup, and now she could finally say that she was truly whole. The future stretched out before her, full of possibilities, and for the first time in a long time, Melanie felt ready to embrace whatever came next. The unexpected reunion with Oliver at the exhibition lingered in Melanie's mind, but unlike before, it didn't bring her pain. Instead, it gave her a sense of closure she hadn't realized she still needed. Oliver had apologized, again showing the remorse she knew was real. But what mattered more was her response. She had walked away, not out of bitterness or anger, but with a quiet confidence that had been absent for so long. It was clear now, she didn't need Oliver or anyone else to define her self-worth. She was free from the weight of her past and the burden of old wounds, and for the first time, she could see her future stretching out before her, open, full of possibilities, and most importantly, hers alone. Weeks passed, and Melanie continued to settle into her life at the Boston Public Library. The work was demanding, but she thrived in the environment, gaining the respect of her colleagues and even being considered for a leadership role on a major project. She threw herself into her career with the same determination she had put into rebuilding her life. One afternoon, while working on a new archival project, Melanie received an email from an old professor at her alma mater. The subject line read, "Exciting opportunity, let's talk." Her curiosity piqued. She opened the message. "Hi Melanie, I hope this email finds you well. I've been following your career since you left the university, and I'm thrilled to see how far you've come. I'm reaching out because we have a unique opportunity here at the university, an opening for a guest lecturer in our library science program. I thought of you immediately. It would be a great chance to share your experiences with students and contribute to shaping the next generation of librarians. Let me know if you're interested. Looking forward to hearing from you. Best, Dr. Caroline Myers." Melanie stared at the email in shock. A guest lecturer position. The idea of teaching had never really crossed her mind before, but as she read the email again, she felt a sense of excitement bubbling inside her. She had always admired her professors and the way they had inspired her to pursue her passion for books and knowledge. Now, the thought of doing the same for others felt like a natural progression in her journey. Teaching would be a new challenge, but Melanie was no stranger to stepping outside her comfort zone. She had rebuilt her life from the ground up, and this felt like the next step in continuing to push herself forward. Later that evening, as she sat with her laptop in her apartment, Melanie drafted her response to Dr. Myers. She expressed her interest in the position and asked for more details. The excitement she felt reminded her of the passion she had when she first started her career, before everything had gotten so complicated with Oliver and the fallout of their relationship. The next few weeks were a whirlwind as Melanie prepared for the transition to her new role as a guest lecturer. She maintained her responsibilities at the Boston Public Library, but began dedicating more time to crafting her lectures and planning her curriculum. She felt a deep sense of purpose in sharing her knowledge and experience with students who were just beginning their careers. On the first day of her class, Melanie stood at the front of the lecture hall, looking out at the eager faces of the students. She felt a nervous flutter in her stomach. After all, this was a new role for her, but she was also filled with a quiet confidence. She had earned her place here. Her journey, with all its ups and downs, had led her to this moment. As she began her lecture, Melanie found herself falling into a rhythm. The students were engaged, asking thoughtful questions, and she could see the spark of curiosity in their eyes, the same spark that had fueled her passion for learning when she was in their shoes. By the end of the class, she knew that this was where she was meant to be. In the weeks that followed, Melanie balanced her work at the library with her new teaching role. It was challenging, but fulfilling, and she felt herself growing both professionally and personally. The teaching position had given her a new sense of purpose, one that extended beyond her career. It was about making an impact, helping others discover their passion, and guiding them as they navigated the early stages of their own journeys. Her life was full now, and while it wasn't always easy, it was hers. She no longer felt defined by her past, by the mistakes others had made, or even by her own moments of doubt. She was living fully, embracing every opportunity that came her way and continuing to grow. One evening, after a particularly rewarding day at the library, Melanie found herself sitting at a cafe near the university, enjoying a rare moment of quiet. She was sipping her tea, watching the world go by, when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and saw a text from Sarah. "Hey, want to grab dinner tomorrow? I have some news." Melanie smiled and quickly typed back a response. Sarah had been her constant through everything, and their friendship had only grown stronger as they both navigated the twists and turns of their lives. "Of course, I can't wait to hear what's going on." The next evening, Melanie met Sarah at their favorite restaurant downtown. It was a small, cozy place with dim lighting and a relaxed atmosphere, the perfect spot for long conversations over good food. As they sat down and ordered, Sarah looked at Melanie with a mischievous grin. "So," Melanie said, raising an eyebrow, "what's the big news?" Sarah took a sip of her wine, drawing out the moment for dramatic effect. "I'm moving to New York." Melanie's eyes widened in surprise. "What? Since when?" "I got an offer from a design firm there," Sarah explained, her excitement palpable. "It's an amazing opportunity. I've been thinking about making a move for a while now, and this just feels like the right time." Melanie felt a mix of emotions, happiness for Sarah, but also a twinge of sadness at the thought of her best friend moving away. "That's incredible, Sarah. I'm so proud of you, but I'm going to miss you like crazy." "I'll miss you too," Sarah said, her expression softening. "But it's only a few hours away. You'll come visit me all the time, right?" "Of course," Melanie said with a smile. "You won't be able to get rid of me." They spent the rest of the evening talking about Sarah's plans for the move, her excitement about the new job, and the possibilities that awaited her in New York. Melanie was genuinely happy for her friend, even if the thought of Sarah being farther away made her heart ache a little. But she knew this was the right move for Sarah, just as her own choices had been right for her. As Sarah prepared to leave for New York, Melanie found herself reflecting on how much their lives had changed since the days when they had been inseparable, leaning on each other through every heartbreak and triumph. They had both grown in ways neither of them could have predicted, and though their paths were leading them in different directions, their bond remained unshakable. Sarah's move also marked a new chapter in Melanie's life, one where she would continue to build on the foundation she had created, without the safety net of her best friend being just around the corner. It was a bittersweet realization, but it also felt like the natural progression of their journeys. They were both stepping into the future with all its uncertainty and potential, The weeks after Sarah's move were filled with adjustment, but Melanie stayed busy with her work at the library and her teaching. She had found a balance in her life, one that allowed her to pursue her passions while also nurturing the relationships that mattered most to her. One evening, as she sat at her desk grading papers from her students, Melanie felt a sense of peace wash over her. This was her life now, full, vibrant, and entirely her own. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready for whatever came next. For the first time in a long time, Melanie felt truly content. Melanie had settled into a routine that felt both fulfilling and challenging. Between her work at the Boston Public Library and her role as a guest lecturer at the university, her life was busier than ever, but it was the kind of busy she thrived on. Each day brought new opportunities, and she embraced them with a quiet confidence that had grown stronger over time. However, despite all the positive changes, there was an emptiness that lingered in the background of her otherwise full life. With Sarah now in New York, the absence of her best friend was palpable. They still spoke frequently, but it wasn't the same as having Sarah nearby. Melanie found herself missing their spontaneous dinners, late-night talks, and the easy companionship that had carried her through so many difficult times. Still, Melanie knew that life moved forward, and so did she. She continued to throw herself into her work, finding satisfaction in the projects she led and the students she mentored. But as the weeks turned into months, a new restlessness began to stir within her, one she hadn't anticipated. One evening, after a particularly long day at the library, Melanie found herself walking through Boston's Beacon Hill neighborhood, one of the oldest and most picturesque parts of the city. The cobblestone streets, lined with historic brownstones, were charming, and the quiet ambiance of the area always brought her a sense of calm. As she strolled, Melanie's mind wandered, reflecting on everything that had changed over the past year. She had come so far, from the broken woman who had been betrayed by someone she loved to the confident professional who had rebuilt her life on her own terms. And yet, there was something missing. She couldn't quite put her finger on it, but it nagged at her. A sense that, despite all her accomplishments, she wasn't fully satisfied. Melanie had achieved everything she had set out to do in the aftermath of her breakup with Oliver. She had built a successful career, regained her sense of self, and found peace in her solitude. But now, as she walked through the quiet streets of Beacon Hill, she began to wonder if it was time for something more. Was she ready to open herself up to the possibility of love again? The thought of dating had been far from Melanie's mind since she and Oliver had parted ways. She had been focused on healing, on growing as a person, and on reclaiming her independence. But now, with the dust of the past fully settled, she couldn't help but wonder if she was ready to let someone new into her life. As the thought lingered, Melanie shook her head, almost laughing at herself. "You don't need a relationship to feel complete," she reminded herself. And it was true, she had learned that lesson well. But there was something undeniably human about wanting companionship, about wanting to share your life with someone else. And maybe, just maybe, she was ready to explore that possibility again. The next day, Melanie arrived at the library to find an invitation waiting for her in her email inbox. It was from one of her colleagues, inviting her to a charity gala being held at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. The event was for a cause that supported literacy programs in underserved communities, something Melanie cared deeply about. Normally, she would have politely declined. These kinds of social events weren't really her scene, but for some reason, she hesitated this time. Maybe it was the lingering sense of restlessness she had been feeling, or maybe it was the realization that she had been keeping herself isolated for too long. Either way, Melanie found herself typing out an RSVP before she could talk herself out of it. The night of the gala arrived, and Melanie felt a mix of excitement and nerves as she dressed for the evening. She had chosen a simple yet elegant navy blue dress, one that hugged her figure in all the right places without being too flashy. As she applied a touch of makeup and slipped on her heels, she glanced at herself in the mirror and felt a surge of confidence. It had been a long time since she had attended a formal event like this, and though the thought of mingling with strangers made her a little anxious, she reminded herself that she was more than capable of handling it. The gala was being held in one of the museum's grand ballrooms, and as Melanie stepped inside, she was immediately struck by the beauty of the space. The room was filled with soft, golden light, and the walls were adorned with stunning works of art. The air buzzed with the sound of conversation and laughter, and waiters moved gracefully through the crowd, offering champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Melanie accepted a glass of champagne and began to make her way through the room, exchanging polite greetings with people she recognized from the library and the university. As she mingled, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in herself. This was the kind of event she had once felt out of place in, but now she carried herself with a quiet assurance that came from knowing her own worth. As the evening progressed, Melanie found herself standing near one of the art displays, admiring a painting when a voice behind her interrupted her thoughts. "I didn't expect to see you here." Melanie turned, her heart skipping a beat as she came face to face with a man she hadn't seen in years, James Parker. He was an old friend from college, someone she had lost touch with after they both went their separate ways. He had been one of the few men in her life who had ever made her feel truly seen, but their friendship had always remained just that, a friendship. Seeing him now, after so many years, was both surprising and strangely comforting. "James," Melanie said, smiling as she extended her hand. "It's been so long." "It has," James replied, his smile warm as he took her hand. "You look amazing, by the way. How have you been?" Melanie felt a rush of nostalgia as they fell into easy conversation. James had always had a way of making her feel at ease, and tonight was no different. As they talked, catching up on the years that had passed since they last saw each other, Melanie found herself genuinely enjoying his company. James had always been ambitious, and from the way he spoke about his career, it was clear that he had found success in his field. He had been working in finance, but his real passion lay in philanthropy, and much of his recent work had been focused on supporting various charitable causes, hence his presence at the gala. As the evening wore on, they continued to talk, reminiscing about their college days and sharing stories of the paths their lives had taken. There was an easy familiarity between them, one that made Melanie feel both nostalgic and curious. She had always wondered what might have happened if things had been different between them back in college, but they had gone their separate ways, and she hadn't thought much of it since. Now, as they stood together in the dimly lit ballroom, Melanie couldn't help but wonder if this was fate's way of bringing them back together. Later that night, after the gala had ended and Melanie was back at her apartment, she found herself thinking about James. Their conversation had felt natural, effortless, and for the first time in a long time, Melanie felt the stirrings of something more than friendship. She wasn't sure what it was, whether it was nostalgia or the lingering attraction she had once felt for him, but the idea of reconnecting with James intrigued her. Still, Melanie was cautious. She had spent so much time healing from her past relationship that the thought of opening her heart to someone new made her hesitant. But at the same time, she knew that life was about taking risks, about allowing herself to be vulnerable again. The following week, James reached out to her, suggesting they meet for coffee and continue their conversation. Melanie agreed, feeling both excited and nervous about what the future might hold. As she sat in a cozy cafe waiting for him, she realized that this was the beginning of something new. She didn't know where it would lead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to find out. The cafe was warm, with the scent of freshly brewed coffee filling the air as Melanie sat at a small table near the window, waiting for James. She felt a nervous excitement she hadn't experienced in years. The unexpected reunion at the gala had left her feeling both nostalgic and curious, and now, as she prepared to meet James again, she wondered what this next chapter of her life would hold. She had spent so much time focusing on her career, her healing, and rebuilding her life after Oliver that the thought of opening herself up to someone new felt daunting. But something about reconnecting with James felt different. They had shared a deep friendship in college, and that sense of familiarity had made their conversation at the gala flow effortlessly. There was no pressure, no expectations, just two old friends catching up. And yet, Melanie couldn't deny the spark of attraction she had felt, the possibility of something more. The bell above the cafe door chimed, and Melanie looked up to see James walking in, his easy smile lighting up the room. He spotted her immediately and made his way over to the table, his presence as warm and comfortable as it had always been. "Hey," James said as he sat down, his smile genuine. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course," Melanie replied, returning his smile. "It's good to see you again." They ordered coffee, and as the conversation flowed, Melanie found herself relaxing, the nervousness she had felt earlier melting away. They talked about their careers, their lives since college, and even reminisced about the late-night study sessions they used to share. It was easy, and Melanie realized just how much she had missed having someone like James in her life, someone who knew her before everything had gotten complicated. As they talked, James leaned in slightly, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking about how crazy it is that we lost touch after college. I mean, we were close back then." Melanie nodded, her mind flashing back to their college days. "Yeah, life just kind of took us in different directions, I guess." James smiled, but there was a hint of something deeper in his eyes. "I always regretted that. You were one of my best friends back then." There was a moment of silence between them, a shared understanding that perhaps there had been more beneath the surface of their friendship all those years ago. Melanie had always felt a connection to James, but the timing had never been right for anything more. Now, sitting across from him, she wondered if things were different. "I missed you too," Melanie said softly, her eyes meeting his. James smiled again, and this time it reached his eyes. "I'm glad we're reconnecting. It feels right." Melanie couldn't help but agree. There was a sense of comfort in being around James, but also a sense of excitement, like the beginning of something new and unexpected. As they continued to talk, Melanie found herself opening up in ways she hadn't in a long time. She told him about her career at the Boston Public Library, about her role as a guest lecturer, and even about the challenges she had faced after her breakup with Oliver. Though she kept the details vague, James listened intently, his gaze focused on her, and when she finished, he nodded thoughtfully. "You've been through a lot, Melanie. I'm really impressed by how you've handled everything." "Thanks," she said, feeling a mix of gratitude and relief. It felt good to talk about her life with someone who genuinely seemed to care. As their conversation continued, Melanie felt something shift. It wasn't just the easy comfort of reconnecting with an old friend. It was the possibility of something deeper. She could feel the attraction growing between them, but it was different from anything she had experienced in the past. There was no rush, no pressure, just a slow, steady build of something that felt real. Over the next few weeks, Melanie and James continued to see each other. They met for coffee, went on long walks around the city, and even attended a few events together. Each time they spent together, Melanie found herself drawn to him more and more. But she was also cautious. She had learned the hard way that rushing into something, especially after heartbreak, wasn't wise. She wanted to take her time, to let things unfold naturally. One evening, after a long day at the library, Melanie found herself sitting in her apartment, thinking about everything that had happened over the past few months. She had come so far in her journey of healing, and now, for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to let someone in again. James had been patient, kind, and understanding. He wasn't rushing her, and that was exactly what she needed. But even as she considered the possibility of a relationship with James, there was a part of her that still hesitated. Trust was something she had rebuilt slowly, piece by piece, after it had been shattered by Oliver's betrayal. And while James was nothing like Oliver, Melanie couldn't shake the fear of opening herself up to the possibility of being hurt again. She knew she needed to be honest with herself and with James about her fears. It wasn't fair to keep moving forward without addressing the things that still weighed on her heart. The next time they met for coffee, Melanie decided to bring it up. They were sitting outside at a cafe near the river, the late afternoon sun casting a golden glow over the water. It was a beautiful day, and the easy conversation between them flowed as naturally as ever. But Melanie knew she needed to say what was on her mind. "James," she began, her voice steady but thoughtful, "I've really enjoyed spending time with you these past few weeks. It's been nice reconnecting." James smiled, sensing that there was more she wanted to say. "I've enjoyed it too, Melanie. It feels like we've picked up right where we left off, but also something more." Melanie nodded, taking a deep breath. "I feel the same way, but I also want to be honest with you. I've been through a lot in the past year, especially when it comes to relationships. I've spent so much time rebuilding myself after what happened with Oliver, and I guess I'm still figuring out how to trust again." James's expression softened, and he reached across the table to take her hand. "Melanie, I get it. I can't imagine what that was like for you, but I'm not here to rush you into anything. We can take this as slow as you need. I'm just happy we're reconnecting." His words were exactly what Melanie needed to hear. She smiled, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. "Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know." James squeezed her hand gently. "We've got time. Let's just enjoy this and see where it goes." Melanie smiled, a sense of relief and excitement settling in her chest. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she could let her guard down, even if just a little. James was different. He understood her, respected her boundaries, and was willing to take things slow. And that was exactly what she needed right now. As the weeks passed, Melanie and James continued to grow closer. Their friendship deepened, and with it, so did the feelings between them. But this time, Melanie felt in control. She wasn't rushing into anything, wasn't putting all her hopes and dreams into one person. She was still focused on her career, her personal growth, and her friendships. But now she was also allowing herself to explore the possibility of love again. It wasn't a whirlwind romance. It was steady, slow, and filled with moments of genuine connection. And that, Melanie realized, was exactly the kind of relationship she wanted. One built on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. One evening, after a quiet dinner with James, they walked together along the river, the city lights twinkling in the distance. As they strolled side by side, Melanie felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. "I'm really glad we reconnected," James said softly, glancing over at her. "Me too," Melanie replied, her heart full. As they continued to walk, hand in hand, Melanie knew that whatever happened next, she was ready. She had rebuilt her life, piece by piece, and now she was opening herself up to the possibility of something new. And this time, she knew she could trust herself to handle whatever came her way. As the weeks turned into months, Melanie and James' relationship continued to blossom. It was a slow, steady rhythm that felt right to her. No rush, no pressure, just two people enjoying each other's company and allowing their connection to deepen naturally. Melanie had come a long way since her relationship with Oliver, and she was determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past. This time, she was careful, intentional, and above all, patient with herself and with James. James had proven to be everything Melanie needed: kind, understanding, and willing to take things slow. He was respectful of her boundaries and never pushed her to move faster than she was comfortable with. In many ways, he was the complete opposite of Oliver, and Melanie was grateful for that. One Saturday afternoon, Melanie and James decided to spend the day exploring the Boston Common, one of the city's oldest and most iconic parks. The air was crisp with the first hint of autumn, and the trees were beginning to turn shades of gold and orange. They strolled hand in hand, the sound of leaves crunching beneath their feet as they walked along the paths. I love this time of year, Melanie said, breathing in the fresh, cool air. There's something so peaceful about the transition into fall. James smiled, squeezing her hand. Yeah, it's one of my favorite seasons too. It's like everything slows down a little and the world just feels calmer. Melanie nodded in agreement. She had been feeling that sense of calm in her own life lately, a quiet contentment that came from knowing she was on the right path, both personally and professionally. Her work at the Boston Public Library was more fulfilling than ever, and her guest lectures at the university had become a source of pride. But it was her relationship with James that brought her the most unexpected joy. As they walked, James glanced over at her, a thoughtful look in his eyes. "I've been meaning to ask you something." Melanie raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What's that?" James hesitated for a moment, as if trying to find the right words. "Well, I know we've been taking things slow, and I'm more than okay with that. But I've been thinking, maybe we should go on a trip together, just the two of us." Melanie's heart skipped a beat. The idea of going away with James excited her, but it also made her nervous. Traveling together was a big step, one that required a deeper level of trust and intimacy. She hadn't been on a trip with anyone since her time with Oliver, and the thought of it brought back memories she wasn't sure she was ready to face. James must have sensed her hesitation, because he quickly added, "It doesn't have to be anything big or fancy, just a weekend getaway somewhere nearby. We can take it slow, like we've been doing." Melanie smiled, appreciating his thoughtfulness. "I like the idea," she admitted, "but I need a little time to think about it." "Of course," James said, his expression soft and understanding. "There's no rush, I just wanted to put the idea out there." Melanie nodded, grateful for his patience. As they continued walking, she found herself lost in thought. She knew that James wasn't Oliver, and that this relationship was built on a foundation of trust and respect. But the idea of being vulnerable again, of putting herself in a situation that could trigger old memories, made her uneasy. Later that evening, Melanie sat in her apartment, reflecting on the day. She knew that her hesitation wasn't about James. It was about her own fears and insecurities. She had been hurt before, and while she had come a long way in healing from that, there were still parts of her that hadn't fully recovered. Her phone buzzed with a message from Sarah, who had been checking in more frequently since she moved to New York. Melanie smiled as she read the text. "Hey, how's it going? I miss you. Call me when you get a chance." Melanie immediately called her back, and within seconds, Sarah's cheerful voice filled the room. "Hey, you! How's my favorite Bostonian?" Melanie laughed, feeling the warmth of their friendship wrap around her. "I'm good, just doing some thinking." "Oh, that sounds serious," Sarah teased. "What's going on?" Melanie hesitated for a moment before diving in. "James asked me to go on a trip with him, just a weekend getaway, and I don't know, Sarah. I like the idea, but I'm also nervous." There was a pause on the other end of the line before Sarah spoke again, her tone more serious. "It makes sense that you'd feel nervous, especially after everything you've been through. But from what you've told me, James seems like a really good guy. Do you trust him?" Melanie thought about that for a moment. "Yeah, I do. He's been nothing but kind and patient with me. I know he's not Oliver. It's just, I guess I'm still scared of getting hurt again." "That's totally normal," Sarah said gently. "But you've come so far, Em. You're not the same person you were when you were with Oliver. You've grown, and you've learned how to protect your heart. I think it's okay to let yourself take this next step with James, if that's what you want." Melanie smiled, feeling the weight of Sarah's words settle in her chest. "You're right. I've been holding back because of my past, but I don't want to let that stop me from moving forward." "Exactly," Sarah said, her voice filled with encouragement. "You deserve to be happy, Melanie. And if this trip feels right, then go for it. You've got nothing to lose." Melanie felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She had spent so much time protecting herself, building walls to keep her heart safe, but maybe it was time to start letting those walls down. James had shown her that he could be trusted, and she knew deep down that she wanted to take this next step with him. "Thanks, Sarah," Melanie said, her voice soft but filled with gratitude. "I think I'm going to do it." "You better, and I want all the details when you get back," Sarah said with a laugh. After they hung up, Melanie felt lighter, as if a decision had finally clicked into place. She was ready to trust again, not just James, but herself. She had done the work, healed the wounds, and now it was time to embrace the possibility of something new. The next morning, Melanie called James and told him she was in. "Let's do it," she said, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "I'd love to go on a trip with you." James's voice lit up with happiness. "That's great. I was thinking we could go to Cape Cod for the weekend. It's close by, and we can take it easy, no big plans, just relaxing and spending time together." Melanie smiled, feeling a sense of calm settle over her. "That sounds perfect." They spent the next few days planning the trip, choosing a small bed and breakfast near the beach where they could unwind and enjoy the peaceful surroundings. As the weekend approached, Melanie found herself looking forward to the getaway more and more. It wasn't just about the trip itself, it was about the step she was taking, the trust she was placing in James and in herself. When the weekend finally arrived, Melanie and James set off for Cape Cod. The drive was beautiful, the leaves beginning to change color as they wound their way along the coast. Melanie felt a sense of calm wash over her as they talked and laughed, the easy conversation between them making the hours fly by. When they arrived at the bed and breakfast, Melanie was struck by how peaceful it was. The small, charming inn sat nestled among trees, with a view of the ocean just beyond. The air smelled of salt and pine, and the sound of the waves in the distance created a serene backdrop. "This is perfect," Melanie said as they checked in and headed to their room. "I'm glad you think so," James replied, his smile warm and genuine. Over the next few days, Melanie and James spent their time exploring the small coastal town, walking along the beach and enjoying the quiet moments together. There were no grand gestures, no forced conversations, just the simple joy of being in each other's company. On their last night, as they sat by a fire on the beach, Melanie felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. She looked over at James, who was watching the flames, a content smile on his face, and realized how far she had come. She had taken a risk, trusted again, and in doing so, had opened herself up to the possibility of love once more. And while there were still uncertainties, still fears that lingered, Melanie knew she was ready to face them head-on, because this time, she was in control. The weekend in Cape Cod had been everything Melanie needed. It had been a chance to escape the bustle of her busy life in Boston, to relax, and more importantly, to spend uninterrupted time with James. They had laughed, explored, and shared deeper conversations than they had in the weeks before. For Melanie, it wasn't just a getaway, it was a turning point. It solidified her decision to trust James and to allow herself to feel vulnerable again. And for the first time in a long time, she felt at peace with the idea of opening her heart. As they drove back to Boston, Melanie sat in the passenger seat, watching the coastline slip away behind them. The waves crashed against the rocks, a rhythmic reminder that life kept moving forward, whether she was ready or not. But now, Melanie knew she was ready. James glanced over at her, his hand resting on the gear shift, and smiled. "You've been quiet for a while. Everything okay?" Melanie nodded, turning to meet his gaze. "Yeah, everything's great. I was just thinking about how nice this weekend has been. It feels like I'm finally moving forward, you know?" James smiled, his eyes warm with understanding. "I'm glad to hear that. I've enjoyed every minute of it." They continued the drive in comfortable silence, but Melanie's mind was far from still. She had come so far, faced so much, and now, as she neared the end of this chapter in her life, she realized how much she had grown. The woman she was now, sitting beside James in this moment, was a far cry from the woman she had been when her world had been shattered by Oliver. In the days that followed their return to Boston, Melanie threw herself back into her work at the library and the university. The routine was comforting, and she found joy in her projects and the students she mentored. But the lingering contentment from her weekend with James stayed with her, as if she had unlocked a new level of peace within herself. One evening, after a long day of lectures, Melanie sat at her desk in the guest lecturer's office at the university, staring out the window as dusk settled over the campus. Her phone buzzed with a message from James. "Dinner tonight. I'm thinking Italian." Melanie smiled at the text, her heart feeling lighter with each interaction they shared. But as she typed out her response, another message came through, one she hadn't expected. "Melanie, it's Oliver. Can we meet? There's something I need to say." For a moment, Melanie simply stared at her phone, her mind racing. She hadn't heard from Oliver in months, not since their last conversation where he had apologized and she had walked away, feeling as though she had finally closed that chapter of her life. But now, seeing his name flash across her screen stirred something in her. Melanie felt conflicted. She had worked so hard to move on, to put the past behind her and rebuild her life. But something told her that this meeting wasn't about reopening old wounds. It felt like the last piece of the puzzle, the final step in her journey of healing. She typed a quick response to James, confirming dinner plans for later, and then hesitated before replying to Oliver. "Okay." When and where? They met at a small cafe in the South End, one Melanie had never been to before. It was quiet, tucked away on a side street, the kind of place where you could talk without being overheard. When she arrived, Oliver was already sitting at a corner table, looking out the window. He seemed different, more subdued, less of the confident, almost cocky man she had once known. As Melanie approached the table, Oliver stood up, offering her a tentative smile. "Thanks for coming," he said softly. Melanie nodded, sitting down across from him. "I wasn't sure what to expect, but I figured, why not?" Oliver sat down as well, his hands clasped in front of him. For a moment, there was an awkward silence, the weight of their shared past hanging between them. But then Oliver took a deep breath and spoke. "I know we've already had this conversation," he began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "But I felt like I owed it to you and to myself to talk to you one last time. Not to apologize again, but to tell you what I've learned since we last spoke." Melanie listened, curious but guarded. She had no idea where this conversation was going, but something about Oliver's demeanor told her that this was different. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about everything that happened," Oliver continued, his eyes meeting hers, "and I realized that what I did to you wasn't just about the bet. It was about how I've lived my entire life, always trying to win, always trying to prove something. I hurt you because I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't know how to just be with someone without it being a competition." Melanie remained silent, letting his words sink in. This was a side of Oliver she hadn't seen before, a man who was finally owning his flaws, who had clearly done some deep soul-searching. "I've been going to therapy," Oliver said after a moment, his voice softer now. "It's helped me realize that I've been chasing the wrong things for so long, and I know it's too late for us. But I wanted you to know that what happened between us changed me. It made me face things about myself that I'd been avoiding for years." Melanie felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She hadn't expected this, not from Oliver. But as she listened to him, she realized that this was the closure she had needed all along. Not just an apology, but an acknowledgement that what had happened had led both of them to grow, to change. "I appreciate you telling me this," Melanie said finally, her voice calm but sincere. "I'm glad you've been able to work through those things, Oliver, and I want you to know that I've moved on. I'm in a much better place now." Oliver nodded, his expression one of quiet understanding. "I'm really happy for you, Melanie. You deserve all the good things in life." They sat in silence for a moment longer, the weight of their past lifting with each passing second. Melanie felt a sense of peace settle over her. This was truly the end of the story between them, and it was ending on her terms. As they stood to leave, Oliver offered her a small smile. "Take care of yourself, Melanie." "You too, Oliver," she replied, feeling nothing but gratitude for the journey they had both been on, separately, but connected by the lessons they had learned. That evening, as Melanie sat across from James at their favorite Italian restaurant, she felt lighter than she had in years. She hadn't told him about the meeting with Oliver yet, but she would. James had proven himself to be someone she could trust with all parts of her life, including the difficult ones. Over dinner, they laughed and talked, the easy rhythm of their relationship continuing to grow stronger. Melanie felt more at home with James than she had ever felt with anyone, and as the evening progressed, she knew that whatever the future held, she was ready for it. After dinner, they walked hand in hand through the quiet streets of Boston, the cool autumn air wrapping around them like a soft embrace. As they passed a small park, James stopped and turned to face her. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," he said, his expression serious but kind. Melanie's heart skipped a beat. "What's that?" James took a deep breath, his eyes locking onto hers. "I love you, Melanie. I know we've been taking things slow, and I don't want to rush you, but I need you to know how I feel." Melanie stared at him, her heart swelling with emotion. She had been waiting for this moment, and now that it was here, it felt perfect. She smiled, her voice soft but filled with certainty. "I love you too, James." They stood there, wrapped in the warmth of their love, the past behind them and the future stretching out before them like a blank canvas. Melanie had come full circle. She had healed, she had grown, and now she was ready to embrace everything life had to offer. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.